show, and it is just me solo today. We are solo for now, and it'll be fun. It's old school. For those of you driving about listening on 93.3 Real Talk FM, thanks. And for those of you watching on Warchant TV on YouTube, thank you as well. Appreciate you very, very much. Interactive chat, as always, maybe busier today than usual. See, we cozy up together on a Redemption Thursday, and maybe I can get to more of your questions if you have any. What a busy time. There will be a lot to touch on. There's been a lot in the last 24 hours. There's been a lot this week. Sorry about yesterday. Was worried about getting everybody sick. Tom is sick. I was sick. The people I know are sick. Didn't want to make it worse. Did a lot of sleeping. Tried to get this throat ready to go. So he's there producing from the bed, pressing certain buttons, doing certain things for when we need it. And I'll need some things, including the audio. Now, I will tell you this, right from Jump Street, that I don't have my picks. I don't have the picks today. We're going to end up doing a Libations Friday, Redemption Thursday edition of the program tomorrow. I do want to, at the outset, say this. For those of you that reached out in the last 24 hours, and some of you have, you've said, hey, is there any room left in the bowling tournament, which is this Saturday? It is this Saturday, 3 o'clock, Capitol Lanes, benefiting the Guardian Ad Litem, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, event that we do each and every year. And the biggest part of that is I've seen the joy that it brings for kids who are in far less fortunate sets of circumstances than many of us were growing up, right? Or that our kids currently have, or whatever it is that, we're able to fall back on and say that we're thankful for. A lot of kids don't have that. And over the years, I have witnessed that. And so I know the good work is my long-winded way of saying I know the good work that the Guardian Ad Litem does. And in any way that we can help, I always appreciate. And you guys have come to our aid over the years and then some. And so if you do want to participate, we have, I think, 3 lanes still open. Now, we have more lanes this year than we've had in a long, long time. And Tom just posted it on the screen right there. You can sign up by emailing radio@warchant.com. That is radio@warchant.com. And therefore, well played, Swiss Irish. I just saw it. It's you can get signed up if you got a group of 4 that you want to play. Saturday, 3 o'clock, middle of the day, Army-Navy game will be on the TV there. Beer, wings, bowling, 3 games. Bring a gift card or 2. Bring a present, new present unopened for a boy and a girl, something along those lines. Whatever you can do helps out, and the folks come on over and we celebrate together, and it puts everybody in the kind of the holiday spirit, right? Everybody gets in the holiday spirit. So feel free to come on down and be a part of it Saturday at 3. About 3 lanes open. Email to get in, radio@warchant.com. Okay, Florida State has a new receivers coach. We've also learned more names in the portal, where to start. In addition to all of that, there was a curious, the timing sort of article in the USA Today. Forgive me when I tell you that anything written by Matt Hayes immediately leads to my raising of an eyebrow and sense that something is up and not in the good when it comes to his takes on Florida State and his article choices over the years. Tim Harris is the new wide receiver coach coming over from UCF. What you're seeing is interesting because I think it makes a lot of sense what's happening. First of all, if you look at the groupings of coaches, right, that Florida State has brought in, there's a couple of things to take away from this. There's a level of familiarity on both sides of the ball. So when you think of Coach White on the defensive side of the ball and the guys that have been brought in subsequently, and then you think of Gus Malzahn on the offensive side of the ball and the people that have been brought in subsequently, including players and coaches, I think you're beginning to see that they wanted to be able to hit the ground running. There's a symbiotic nature to all of that, and it does stand to reason. I want to start with this. I really, really enjoyed the coaches' press conferences yesterday. And the reason that I really, well, in my opinion, the reason I really enjoyed it was that there was a tenor to it. I don't know how many of you noticed this, But listening to those coaches talk about toughness, and I know the headline on warchant.com and Corey's article is you've got to run the football downhill. The conversation about how you play defense and the ability to stop the run and what Florida State is going to attempt to do defensively centers around toughness. And I get the sense that these coaches, it's probably a marriage of a couple of things. These coaches, simply by looking at the film that we saw last year, or that they could have watched before taking the job here, realized in no uncertain terms, Florida State was soft. Florida State was tissue soft. They got softer as the year went on. There was a lot of give up. There was a lot of ambivalence. There was an awful lot of seeming indifference towards making a play or a tackle, especially at the point of attack. And so when you listen to coaches talk about if you want to be tough, it starts in practice. To me, that is a direct shot at what that Florida State team was a year ago. And I don't mean it as in they came in here taking shots, but rather wanting to instill that from this point forward, at least under their watch, it's going to be a lot different. And I think that the reason I say it's a marriage of a couple things is in addition to assessing Florida State's roster, assessing Florida State's play from this past year, a nightmarish 2-10 campaign, those coaches have got to set the tone. They've got to let it be known what is expected from this point forward. And I also think they heard loud and clear from the head coach. They heard from the head coach exactly what you and I thought, which is that this is not how you play football. This is completely unacceptable. And, of course, you heard from Mike Norvell time and again.
There have been issues.
Mm-hmm. And the greatest of those issues, in my opinion, was that they were soft. They were soft at the line of scrimmage. They were soft coming up to stop the run. They were blanketly, you could say, soft. And I think Mike was probably, like the rest of us, disgusted. I think at some point there was a little bit of paralysis by analysis, like what button do I push? How do I get these guys to listen? When do I give up on a veteran player who hasn't always played this way, who has shown signs in the past of being the kind of tough that we need? How many more times do I roll him out there when I have overwhelming evidence that they're no longer playing the way we need them to play, that there's rot from within? How soon do I make these changes? At some point, you were too far down the road and into a lost season, and the culture went south. There's no other way to say it. I'm not saying that everybody on this team quit. I'm not saying that everybody on this team is soft. I'm not saying that all of those guys are people that you should wash your hands of. I'm saying a lot of them are. And I'm saying that the evidence, not just my opinion, the evidence was on display. You watched it. You saw the same games I did. So Mike knows that cannot stand, man. That cannot. You can't have a situation. No good football team is soft. No very good football team who has championship aspirations is soft. They may play a different style of football that could be described, at least aesthetically, as not as physical as another style. But those teams, no matter the systems they run, are not soft if they're good, if they're any good at all. So I'm going to guess, and I'm going to have Ira Schoffel on here in a segment we did just before I came on the air today. I wanted to talk to him about a few things, in particular about Castellanos coming to Florida State now. Ira did some research, talked to some Boston College folks about that situation. I wanted him to illuminate the sets of circumstances that led to the decision for him to walk away before the season was over, because I think, like a lot of you, I have my concerns about a quarterback that didn't stick with his team. I wanted to know, was it something as simple as he was benched and then walked away, or was it a little bit more complicated than that? Because I do think it's important that you surround yourself with guys that certainly aren't quitters. I think it is important that if you're trying to change who you are and what you are, and you want to lean more towards tough and more towards dedicated and more towards committed and more towards being a good teammate and being there for the guys around you, that you probably aren't trying to attract guys that have given you pause to wonder whether or not that's who they are. So I talked to Ira about that, and you'll hear that in the second segment of this hour, as well as the possibility of some other players that Florida State is looking at. It's going to be imperative that Florida State, and this is a lot like traditional recruiting, but when you look at the sheer number of players that Florida State wants to bring in the portal, and you think, okay, well, this is a hell of an undertaking. They've got to get 25, 30 new players from the portal to go along with all the players they brought in the recruiting class, or maybe even if you just think it's 20 to 25. Obviously, evaluation is very, very important. I've talked a lot about the fact that they are going to have to be proven players. They're going to have to be proven players, guys that have succeeded at this level, or whatever level they played at. I mean, that's not to say there aren't players who've played at small schools and proved themselves that, then in turn can play at a higher level and do it. We see that all the time. In fact, some of our best gets, including Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, were exactly that, right? Guys who excelled at a smaller school or a lower level, only to become, NFL stars in year one and huge difference makers in the midst of an undefeated campaign. So I'm not excluding players from smaller schools. I'm just saying that wherever they come from, they have to be players that have proven themselves, have excelled wherever they were at. And if that's the case, then you take those chances, you bring those folks in. But what you have to do, just like in recruiting, is understand your sets of circumstances. Florida State is, no matter how desirous they are of bringing in top-tier talent, elite-level skill, real size and depth to the offensive and defensive lines, they are still recruiting to a place that, while it is one with great cachet and history, is coming off a 2-10 season, is coming off a 2-10 campaign. So understanding that amongst the elite of the elite in the portal that you have interest in, they may only have casual interest in you. And knowing when to cut bait and go to your second and third option at the position or the segment group is going to be important. They're going to have to navigate these waters carefully, because you don't want to be in a position where you miss out on a player who then maybe at the time you first had a chance to talk to them as they entered their name into the portal, they didn't have a lot of options. You look at them as a second or third tier guy, and then you go after a top upper crust level player at the position in the portal, and you fail to get him. He goes instead to Georgia or Texas or one of the other teams that not only didn't go 2-10, but are amongst the elite in college football sustained over the last several years. Because the chances are you're not going to get that guy if they're going to elicit those kinds of offers. And even if they're not getting those kinds of offers, they may be getting offers from other schools that are on the same tier you are financially and otherwise. You have the same amount of money to spend that you do, only they didn't go 2-10. And if you wait to make that move, then they leverage those new offers, those 3 and 4 offers that they didn't have when you could have called them day one, day two, that they now have in their back pocket, thus destroying your budget and making it very difficult to accrue the sheer number of players that you want with the dollars you have to commit to the better players who have a multitude of offers. It's a balancing act still, is my point. It's still something that I'm not sure he's going to be able to do. He might do it and do it extremely well. You would love to fall back on his successes prior to this past year, his successes when he first got here and was a portal maven, was a stud in the portal before it was popular or before others even saw it as a viable option. Mike is now competing in a different era of portal. Mike is now competing from a different place. The new car smell that he never got the advantage of because of when he was first hired, it's a COVID year, and he was at a distinct disadvantage, which is what led him to the portal to begin with, and an over-reliance on it because it worked and it was necessary, and it led to a quick turnaround. The problem is now you had a fall off in year 4 going into year 5. That new car smell is gone, and the portal is totally changed. And everybody now has NIL. And a lot of these schools are operating as if the $20 million from the House settlement is already in place. So they're going balls to the wall just as you are and just as you were, but now everybody is. They're not coming off a 2-10 season. Going to be fun to watch and to monitor. It's like it's so strange. It's the more things change, the more they stay the same, and nothing is sane in college football anymore. So you factor all that in as you think about how this resembles yesteryear in traditional recruiting, knowing who you are and what you're capable of. When Florida State had it rolling in the 90s, they could literally knock on the door of the number 1 prospect in the country, and that person was elated to see Bobby Bowden in Florida State coming to their hometown to take a visit. There wasn't a door that was going to be closed to you. You're effing Florida State. And while that cachet carries over for 40 years plus of success, it's not what it once was. The environs are not what they once were, and the program is, well, in the midst of a complete overhaul and rebuild after an unthinkable season. So navigating that now becomes that case where you are the program that was on the rise, that had to find hidden talent, that had to evaluate properly and project and say, well, what about that kid that was a 3-star right guard at USF, UCF, East Tennessee State? What about that kid that was a 3-star prospect but ran a 4.4, had some great issues initially, went to a junior college? I think he's going to be a star. Just had some issues. Let's bring him in. You got to figure out what's what. That landscape is constantly changing. Speaking of landscape changing, more on the Bill Belichick hire at North Carolina, further proof that college football is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And resembling all the more professional football without the guardrails necessary. You can't have unlimited free agency and unlimited transfers. You do. And now you have the college game turning into the pro game, but without the benefits of the things that regulate the pro game. And every day you just wonder exactly how do you run a program. And that brings me to Bill Belichick, which I'll get into later in the program. My interview earlier today on all things Florida State, both from a coaching standpoint and the portal, and Thomas Castellanos, who Ira was able to inquire with the Boston College folks about. You'll hear it next on the Jeff Cameron Show.
Friends here?
Have a seat, Dave. We need to talk about your problem.
Problem? I don't have a problem. Dave, you do have a problem. A problem with your grill. Here's some pamphlets from Hearth and Patio. They are waiting for your call to help you upgrade your grill.
If you or someone you know needs a grilling intervention, call Hearth and Patio today at 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282 or hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Don't miss TSC Tuesdays every Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. during the Greg Tish Show. Find out what's happening at Tallahassee State College every Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3 FM.
You worked hard on making your home the grandest holiday decorated in the city. Parker Services AC and Electrical is giving you an opportunity to be recognized for that work. For the first time ever, Parker Services is proud to bring the Tallahassee area its Holiday Lights competition. There will be 3 winners, one from each of these categories. Heavenly Light, which captures the spirit of the Nativity. Most Electrifying, which recognizes the most vibrant, energy-packed displays. And Elves Gone Wild, for the most whimsical and wacky display. Each winner will receive a great prize package. The second and third place finisher will also be recognized. To enter, visit Parker Services website, TallahasseeAC.com. Again, TallahasseeAC.com by December 17th. You'll find easy-to-follow instructions there. Winners will be announced December 20th. Good luck and happy holidays from Parker Services AC, Electrical, and Generators too.
Help Christmas Connection bring the joy of Christmas to children and families in need. This year, more than ever, give a gift, make a donation, or volunteer your time. Wood and Glass and these local businesses have joined together to bring you this message. Rapid Press, Tony Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning, ACL Home Inspections, and Scent Evidence K9. Give yourself a gift by helping Christmas Connection bring Christmas joy to families in need. And find out more at helpchristmasconnection.com. Time. It's the one thing we never get back. We can't create it. We can't buy it. We can't store it somewhere. Once it's gone for good, which makes it the most valuable thing we have. The only real question is how we spend our time. So, how much time are you spending every day running in circles with a computer network using old software on old equipment that's wasting your time, that gets in the way and leaves you feeling angry and frustrated? Let's fix that. Call Crown Networking. They've been helping people just like you and I make the best use of their time for the last 20 years. Now is the time for you to make the call. Here's the number in Tallahassee, 850-999-0090, 999-0090, or online at crownnetworking.com. Oh, and talk to them about getting you a new phone system, too. You know, it's time.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Real Talk fact number 44. For 1 hour burns 150 calories. This is Real Talk 93.3, Tallahassee's Real Talk station. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Was going to say, now's the time to hit the video, Tommy. But I should probably introduce it. This was me and Ira talking earlier this morning. Again, my conversation with him. Now we'll cue it. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Jeff Cameron Show, Redemption Thursday edition of the program. Appreciate you being here with me. Listen, we figured if I was going pretty much solo today, we wanted to get a couple of conversations in here to rest the voice a little bit. Throat's still bothering me some, but hey, we're troopers out here. We're going to do the right thing. But who better to talk to? There's a lot going on. And our very own Ira Schoffel, Warchant.com, and he joins me now on the Jeff Cameron Show. Hello, Ira. Thanks for making the time, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I think this might be my inaugural appearance on a Redemption Thursday. I've been on a lot of days. I don't know if I've ever been on Redemption Thursday before. So pretty excited.
We'd have to go back like maybe 15 years or something. I mean, it might have been like the early days, like when I would just randomly have you on. We didn't have a set time, right?
Well, thankfully, you're not going to make me place a bet. So I think we're all happier about that.
Do you have a bet you'd like to place?
No. Nope.
No bets for Ira. No bets. And obviously, we're going to want to start with quarterback, Ira. And Florida State finds out what had been rumored for some time, and we're not surprised at all. And really, this is about fit, I think, more than anything else. Castellanos comes in, has now committed to Florida State. And you know, I've enjoyed going back and watching his best moments, because when you look at his best moments, you can get excited. Some of his best moments were against Florida State in the one game. But the reason being, and I saw this write-up, by the way, Luganville said this, and I've seen a couple of other scouts say this about him, and I think this part's accurate. There are downsides to his game. We know what they are. But we're all trying to look at the upsides in this system. Quote, don't know what happened leading to his benching at Boston College, which I'm going to ask you about, and why he's in the portal. But when he's on, Castellanos is an exciting, dynamic runner and passer. He's a perfect fit for any team looking to use the spread offense and wants to feature the quarterback as a runner, quote unquote. Despite a diminutive stature, he's very difficult to bring down. He's hard to defend and has some really good tape when he's playing well, end of quote. So if you're a Florida State fan and you hear that, you go, okay, well, we recognize that because when he is playing well, he has been that. He hasn't been the most consistent quarterback in the world, and that's the other part of it, and it'll be up to Gus to get it done. What were you able to learn about what happened at the end of his time at Boston College? Because I think a lot of people would be excited about him featured in this offense if they felt better about whatever it was that transpired up at Boston College. So I guess I know you've done some research on this. What were you able to find out?
Yeah, I mean, it's never a good thing when you quit on your team. Although this is a little bit of a different era, right? I mean, we've seen this gradually over the last several years, going back to Everett Golson. He was at Florida State and then left before the bowl game because he lost his starting job. And you think about through the years now, guys going in the portal late in the season, skipping bowl games. This just takes it to a different level. From what I understand, Thomas Castellanos was not real fired up about Bill O'Brien's offense. It wasn't really a great fit for him. That wasn't certainly they didn't consult him when they were hiring Bill O'Brien. And, he stayed and tried to learn it. And I think he wants to be an NFL quarterback. So it seemed like a good opportunity to play for Bill O'Brien. But it very much sounds like Bill O'Brien was trying to force, a square peg into a round hole. He wanted him to be he wanted to run an NFL offense, and he wanted Castellanos to do that. And so it was a very difficult process getting to that point. Remember when they played Florida State early in the year, and we all just watched in amazement that he never really looked to run till later in the game. And that was by design, and that's kind of what they did the rest of the year. If you look at his numbers, he never really ran the ball this season at Boston College. And I think that was one of the things that frustrated, from what I hear, talking to people around the program, Castellanos was very frustrated about that. He wanted to get outside the pocket. He feels like that's where he makes his best plays. He was not comfortable just staying stationary in the pocket and trying to read the field, make NFL run an NFL conceptual offense. And so they had success with him at quarterback. He had 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. It's not like he was playing terribly, but he never was really comfortable in it. And from what it sounds like, he was already planning to enter the portal at the end of that season to try to find an offense more suited for him. Then he gets banged up, I guess, in the Syracuse game, then gets benched, and O'Brien basically tells him we're going in a different direction. And at that point, he leaves the team. You can look at that however you want to look at it. Some people are going to say, well, that's ridiculous. You quit on your team. I think other people will say, well, he was going to leave anyway at the end of the season. And so Bill O'Brien just made that answer easier for him. Certainly not defending the decision, but it's not like everything was fine and he got benched and walked out the door. Like it wasn't a good marriage from the beginning. Because of how he plays, what he wants to do, and what that offense requires. And then once he wasn't going to play anymore, I think he decided to move on and start looking ahead to his future. From what I was told,
selfishly, if you're a Florida State fan, look, you hope Castellanos comes in and plays well. One thing I will say, and going back and looking at the numbers and looking at some of how he played last year in that offense that you're talking about. He was forced to improve his accuracy. He ended up completing over 60% of his passes last year. So he had to improve as a thrower, as a passer, and as a reader of defenses. So in a weird way, even though that may not have been an offense best suited for his overall skill set, he had to work on the things that improved him as a quarterback as he enters Florida State. Because now I got to guess he's a better passer now than he was at this time a year ago because he was forced to do it. He was, like to your point, he ended up having to do that. He cut way back on his turnovers. He only had a total, when you combine a fumble in there, like 6 to 8, I think I remember reading, and he completed over 61% of his passes. So he was improving in areas that he needed to improve, and now he'll go back into an offense that he'd like to run, probably as an improved thrower of the football. I mean, if you're being optimistic, I think that's the way you would look at it.
Yeah, that's definitely what you're hoping. And like you said at the beginning, when you talked about him as a player, if you watch the highlights, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this kid might be Charlie Ward. But you go back to that year after he had that miraculous rally against Florida State where he think he had over 400 yards of offense in that game. They were down big early and mounted the comeback and probably could have won the game. Just kind of ran out of time. But Castellanos in that game looked incredible in that second half and as they rallied. But then I watched him later in the year. I was thinking, man, Boston College has a real superstar at quarterback. And then I watched them a couple times later in the year, and I know you did as well. And it's like he looked good for a quarter, then he threw the ball right to the linebacker. He made some just head scratching decisions. It seemed like he was cutting them down some this season, but part of that's probably because the ball wasn't in his hands as much. He wasn't the entire offense. The year before, when he had 15 touchdowns and 14 picks. And so, again, I think when you talk about fits for offenses, I know a lot of Florida State fans would prefer a prototypical quarterback. They want one of these big name, can't miss quarterbacks. A lot of people were sad to see Luke Kromenhoek leave, but I kind of felt like when they hired Gus Malzahn, it seemed like this is kind of the direction they were going to go. And so I think Mike Norvell signed up for this when he signed on with Gus Norvell. Excuse me, with Gus Malzahn.
Gus Norvell is a good way to call this offense.
The Gus Norvell
offense moving forward. I would say that, and it's not our responsibility to assuage fears of Florida State fans, right? So we're going to say, just as they are, I don't know, maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, we don't know at this point. I do know he's better suited to run Gus Malzahn's offense than just about anybody in the portal. So it's not surprising that they would go that route. Now we'll just see, do they get the most out of him? Do they get the best version? Ira, yesterday you were there and were able to ask questions to the new coordinators. I was struck by the overall tone, both by Gus and on the defensive side of the football, where it seems fairly obvious that, I'm making a judgment call here. Maybe they wouldn't say it this way, but their words certainly suggest that they understand Florida State's got to get tougher. It seems to me like when you talk about toughness and wanting to play a certain way, and then both sides of the ball, both coaches quoted, well, you can't talk about it. You have to be it. You have to do those things in practice. Doesn't that suggest to both of us that we're going to see a different looking practice when we go to watch Florida State play in the spring?
You have to think so, and I think both of us hope so. And Malzahn was pretty blunt about it yesterday, as you said. He said you can't really want to do that. You can't just talk about it. It's got to be an attitude. It's going to be a mindset of how you approach every day in practice. And I think, again, looking at Florida State, especially last season, but even probably the last couple of years, that's not really how they practiced. And it's hard for us to say too much about, earlier because it was such a mess. They were trying to put together a roster. They were limited at a lot of positions. They didn't have a lot of depth at a lot of positions. But even in 2023 and then in 2024, obviously, where you're ostensibly further down in the program's development, you would have expected to see some more physicality in practice. And if that's how you're going to practice, that's fine, as long as you can somehow muster it on game day. In 2023, that team still played pretty physical football. 2024 did not at all. So now you say, okay, well, why are we not practicing that way? And yeah, I think there's no question. And for those guys to say it, I'm sure it's partly from them watching film. They've watched Florida State film now since they've considered this job and taken it. But also, I'm sure when they talk to Mike Norvell, there's no doubt he's telling them that publicly, telling them that in their conversations as well. He never really wanted to talk about it publicly because I don't think he ever wanted to put down his players. But he watched the same games we watched. That was not a physical football team in any area, and that's got to be a huge priority, and it starts in practice.
Yeah, and I think if you want to run the ball, you have no choice but to toughen people up by running the football in practice, tackling people to the ground and doing those things. Because conversely, on the other side of the ball, they said the same thing. Coach White and them were talking about, stopping the run and being physical, and you can't talk about being physical. You got to be physical. If he brings in those Nebraska guys, which I think is the best bet Florida State has to transition into a much more physical team and one that actually knows what they're doing, because these guys ran that defense, then we're going to see a different identity at Florida State. I think the other part of that too, Ira, that was interesting and I got excited is, if you marry his comments with Mike Norvell's comments that he wanted to provide more pressure. He wanted to be more aggressive and wanted to get more for lack of a better term, after the quarterback. I've wanted that for some time. I understand there's two ways of operating on defense. You can keep everything in front of you, tackle, and be a good red zone team. And Florida State could do that at times. The other way to do that is, take a few more chances and create more pressure and get after the quarterback. You could get burned, but it looks like Florida State is flipping to the latter, which is they're bringing pressure from different places, and they're going to be very physical against the run. It's going to be a different looking team altogether.
Yeah, 100%. And, that's the thing, like this is what we do in all walks of life, but definitely with our sports teams is like when you have one thing and you get frustrated with it, you end up kind of pivoting in a different direction. And, Adam Fuller definitely was one of those defenses that, especially this past season, but really throughout his tenure, where they were going to be pretty sound fundamentally, not allow a bunch of big plays, try to stop the run. But that kind of opened up a lot of the intermediate things, allowed them to a lot of third downs to be converted because, again, they weren't forcing the issue. And, and they frustrated fans to no end. So the idea of being more attacking is certainly going to be appealing to any Florida State fan who listens to that and thinks that and watches maybe what Tony White's defenses have done in the past. On the flip side, like you said, you are probably going to give up some plays. But I think after what we've been through or what people have been watching, I think they're ready for that because they, and again, I think the other thing about Adam Fuller's defense was, they played so much man, which you think of as being aggressive, but it really opens you up to some things. It opens you up to the quarterback run. It also doesn't put your DBs usually in positions to make plays on the ball as ball hawks, the way like if you play some zone, if you mix things up. And Florida State wasn't confusing anybody on defense. I think that's going to be one of the things Tony White tries to do.
Deuce Robinson. I'm very curious. I didn't think it would be a possibility. For those that don't know, Dominic Robinson's son, who played at USC at the time that he came out of high school, was considered like the number one or top prospect. Yeah, he's 6'6". You look at him, he's a freak. He's 6'6", 225 pounds. He's a receiver, not a tight end. He's a freak of an athlete, obviously. Scuttlebutt that Deuce, there's a chance Florida State could get Deuce Robinson. Your thoughts on what you're hearing there?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm with you. Coming out of high school, Deuce was the number one tight end in the country, even though he wasn't really a tight end. He hadn't played tight end really in high school. But because he's 6'6" and 200-something pounds out of high school, I think people thought he might grow in to a tight end. But that's not what he did at USC. He played wide receiver for 2 years. This past season had 5 touchdowns, 20-some-odd catches. Over the last 2 years, he averaged about 20 yards a catch. So has been a big play downfield threat. And coming out of high school, Florida State was mentioned among his schools because his dad, Dominic Robinson, was an FSU grad. And because, Florida State, I think, was interested in him early. It just never really kind of materialized. From talking to people at Florida State, they didn't feel like Deuce was all that interested. Deuce grew up in Arizona. D-Rob and their family live in Arizona. They just, for whatever reason, Florida State felt like he wasn't as receptive as they hoped he would be. And then he ends up going to USC, and he showed a ton of potential for sure. 8 touchdowns, I think, the last 2 years, big play threat. He's went into the portal a couple of days ago. I think a bunch of Southern Cal guys have gone into the portal. And, there's apparently very strong mutual interest. I know Florida State definitely would love to have him in this offense. And I think, as we see this offense materialize, the running game is going to be a huge part of it. A mobile quarterback is going to be a huge part of it. But also, look at the way Norvell signed these big receivers in this freshman class as well. Like, I think they want some big targets for when they take those shot plays. And Deuce Robinson would be a huge fit for it. And again, it sounds like Deuce is very interested as well. Now, he's going to have a bunch of people coming at him. Again, he is super talented. Hasn't put up crazy numbers at USC, but man, there's no doubt the talent is there, and they spread the ball around a lot there. But from everything we hear, there's a lot of interest. I would not be surprised at all if this is one that really kind of continues to heat up because apparently Florida State is making a big push, and so far Deuce has been receptive to it.
Buddy, Florida State's going to line up, if everything goes the way they want it to, with a whole bunch of 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". I mean, that's like, I don't sign me up for that. You don't have to be the most accurate passer in the world if obviously the radius in which to catch a football is 8 feet. It's like, I mean, I'm in good shape if I got 6'6", 6'5", 6'5", 6'4" as my receiving core. I'm hoping. I mean, we tend to love to bring back legacy players, but I especially like to bring them back when they're 6'6", 220 plus,
and really good athletes. He's an outfielder in baseball, so he's an exceptional athlete. He's not a big plotter at 6'6", and yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think what's interesting is a year ago, Mike Norvell, he's bringing DJ Uyunglele at quarterback, and they thought they were going to be able to run the football, and they really went after these speedy receivers, Jalen Brown, Malik Benson, but not a lot of size. And then it's like, again, we're going the pivot thing again where, well, that did not work real well. So now Mike Norvell appears to be going much, for bigger targets. But I think that fits well with what they're trying to do. I mean, and again, if you get big, stronger dudes, obviously you can block better as well, which should help in the running game. So I think it makes sense. But yeah, it's like you said at the beginning. I mean, this is we can't guarantee any of this is going to work, and there are plenty of people that will doubt it's going to work, and I understand that. But you at least see the vision of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I like always going bigger if possible. I mean, obviously they're not doing it with quarterback, but with everybody else, yeah, let's go ahead and get bigger. There's not a world in which bigger, stronger, faster doesn't translate typically. And now Tim Harris is the new wide receivers coach. He'll be in obviously engaged with them and as responsibility, obviously, of grooming them. It's not a surprise we had heard this name, Ira. I know you had heard it behind the scenes, and a lot of people had been talking about that possibility of that. He comes over from UCF. What do you know about Tim Harris? There's a background there. This is a coaching staff that on both sides of the ball now have some real familiarity with those that they're surrounding themselves with.
Yeah, so Tim Harris Jr. is kind of a Miami guy, but he has been with Gus Malzahn, I think, 3 different times now. But he was a UCF's receivers coach and offensive coordinator. The position coach hires, I was talking to some people on the message boards about this. The position people, I don't like to get too locked into who are they going to get as a position coach, because to me, those are always very fluid. Position coaches generally at the end of a season are talking to a bunch of different teams, and schools are talking to a bunch of different, receivers. And then it's almost like a, speed dating. Like everybody's trying to figure out the best situation for them. They end up with Tim Harris Jr., which I think a lot of people would say, well, if Gus Malzahn wanted him, why didn't you just bring him immediately? Well, he was talking to other people as well. And, there was talk that he was up for the FIU head coaching job and, probably wanting to see how things played out at UCF. And again, he's another guy that has worked with Gus Malzahn. Those are 3 guys that were in the same meeting room last year: Malzahn, Harris, and Herb Hand, the offensive line coach. On the defensive side, as you said, you brought 3 guys in from Nebraska. What that does, again, it's not like those were 2 incredible programs where you're just saying, okay, we're bringing in these guys who clearly have won at a high level. But that familiarity, I think, is important. As you look at this offense, if you look at this coaching staff, from a recruiting standpoint, which was one of our huge complaints with Mike Norvell's original staff, now you got another guy, strong South Florida ties to go with the Cooper from Nebraska, who's got strong South Florida ties. I mean, you could see a stronger recruiting presence with this staff.
This is 100%. This is the part I got excited about. I'm glad you touched on it, Ira, because you can see the modus operandi here. It's not just that you're bringing in guys that you trust implicitly, that you like a lot, who have impressed you. In the case of Tony White, and guys like that, you're bringing in guys that have had that kind of success, but also you kind of triangulate it a little bit with the off the field staff, with some of these newer guys. You realize they're going hard after South Florida. It looks to me like they're going, there's plenty of evidence to connect the dots here that they have a much greater presence in the state of Florida in terms of relationships and origin stories, if you will, where these guys come from and where they played and the coaches they've worked with and who they know. You're starting to see, like Mike, I think, realizes he had a problem on his hands. He just didn't have a lot of great connections. Obviously, He brought his linebackers coach in as a guy that he was hoping Randy Shannon would give him some of those, and maybe he did to some degree, but really that was the only presence they had up until they brought in Surtain. And so I think what you're seeing now is a much greater presence and a much more tangible and direct connection than we've had in the past.
Yeah, and Surtain did a really good job, like you said. I mean, those young defensive backs they brought in these last two classes, a bunch of guys from South Florida, and Surtain's track record obviously as an NFL player, and his son's name is maybe the top corner in the NFL. So that helped, and that certainly is helped them bring in some young talent. Now maybe you get some more young offensive talent. Cooper, the new safeties coach from Nebraska, I think they signed. Didn't Sean Callahan say they signed 5 kids out of Miami? This past
out of Miami.
Yeah, this past recruiting cycle, he's a Miami guy. So yeah, it's again, recruiting. We could talk about how much it's changed because of NIL and all of those factors, but relationships are a huge part of it. I think Mike Norvell maybe didn't value that as much early on, or certainly the last few years. And if it doesn't work from a recruiting standpoint now, it's not because he didn't get guys with relationships. They've got a lot of guys with relationships on that staff.
Appreciate you hopping on, brother. Be well. And I know it'll be busy the rest of the day. Everybody check out Ira, of course, Warchant.com, as we are constantly updating you as things change. And they're changing by the hour. Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Feel better, Tom.
There we go. Jeff Cameron Show rolls on in a moment. 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Due to night temperatures potentially dropping below 35 degrees, overnight cold weather shelters will be available in Tallahassee again tonight. Anyone in need of cold weather sheltering is encouraged to go to any of the locations that best represents their household composition. Single adults are asked to go to the Kearney Center. Families that consist of at least one child and one adult can go to Hope Community, and youth that are under the age of 18 can seek shelter at 2407 Roberts Avenue. Those in need of shelter must show up at their specified location anytime between 4 to 8 p.m. for intake. Tallahassee police are investigating what they call an accidental death after a man fell out of a tree while working and died. The incident happened around 12:56 p.m. along Tipperary Drive Tuesday afternoon. He was on the property for a job. Investigators say they do not believe foul play is suspected. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. 56 this afternoon under clear skies, northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, 38. Daytime highs approaching 65. Tomorrow, mainly clear skies. Partly cloudy skies and dry Saturday and Sunday, upper 60s. Saturday, low 70s by Sunday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 52 degrees.
Games for Less, Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachia Parkway. There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yep,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And,
never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Now back to Jeff. Oh, man. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Our thanks to Ira Schoffel. Appreciate you being here as well. I wanted to touch on the USA Today article. I'll get to it in the next hour. This is going to be an incredibly brief segment. again, running solo here today, somewhat solo. Tom is in the backdrop there, dealing with his sickness away from here, which is a good thing. By the way, really quick, to follow up on Harris, Tim Harris, the new wide receiver coach, as with all of these coaches up to this point, I've talked about, we don't know. College football is crazy right now, and I'm getting a sense more and more that any perceived or preconceived notion of a program going a certain direction or another, and it's going to work or not work, including this Bill Belichick thing, the more I look around, the more I realize that until certain things are in place, we don't know. We don't know. And I'm willing to now say that under the previous way of doing business in college football, you wouldn't have suspected many things to work that have, and you wouldn't have thought that certain things would fail in the manner that they have under the old guys of college football. But it's changed so much now that I take a wait and see approach with almost everything. Look, are there coaches that Florida State would have been after if the rules of the game were very different under the old way of doing things that I would have liked more? The answer is yes, in certain circumstances. And does that change understanding that you don't have kids year over year the way you once did, that you can't build programs the way you once did, that grooming certain players to play in their redshirt junior year is no longer really a viable option anymore? Yeah, man, you have to factor in all of this. Clearly North Carolina is too, right? I mean, that's a crazy swing for them to make on Bill Belichick, but it might work. I'll explain more on that in hour number 2 as well. Speaking of which, that's coming up. 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
You worked hard on making your home the grandest holiday decorated in the city. Parker Services AC and Electrical is giving you an opportunity to be recognized for that work. For the first time ever, Parker Services is proud to bring the Tallahassee area its Holiday Lights competition. There will be 3 winners, one from each of these categories. Heavenly Light, which captures the spirit of the Nativity. Most Electrifying, which recognizes the most vibrant, energy-packed displays. And Elves Gone Wild, for the most whimsical and wacky display. Each winner will receive a great prize package. The second and third place finisher will also be recognized. To enter, visit Parker Services website, TallahasseeAC.com. Again, TallahasseeAC.com. By December 17th, you'll find easy-to-follow instructions there. Winners will be announced December 20th. Good luck and happy holidays from Parker Services, AC, Electrical, and Generators 2.
Dream it, plan it, do it. Brian Barnard's Flooring America offers a straightforward way to shop with our streamlined shopping.
Finding the right flooring is simple. Visit our newly remodeled showroom featuring the Room to Explore shopping experience, where our knowledgeable staff will walk you through the steps.
Our family has been serving the area since 1976 with a local staff of more than 35 people trained in flooring sales and design. We know floors
and we know styles. Let us help make your home timeless.
Brian Barnard's Flooring America, where friends send friends.
The best happy hour in the city is at Café de Martín and El Bar. All day, every day, you can find great deals at Café de Martín while enjoying the best outdoor seating Tallahassee has to offer. Sip away on 2-for-1 house wines, chilcanos, and margaritas all day long, Monday through Thursday. Plus 2-for-1 pisco sours and margaritas on Fridays and Saturdays, and 2-for-1 mimosas for Sunday brunch. Come join us at Café de Martín, where every hour is happy hour, in the Esposito Shopping Center on Capitol Circle Northeast.
I'm Jimmy Basic with Basic Brooks Law Offices, and we believe you. Now, what does that mean? Over and over, we hear from the people we represent that when they shared their story of how they were injured with law enforcement, insurance companies, or business owners, they didn't believe our client's story. That's why you need an attorney that has your back no matter what. An attorney who starts by believing you're telling the truth. We're Basic Brooks, and we believe you. 850-777-7777.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT. Crescent, Tallahassee.
It's time for your 93.3 Sports Flash, powered by Kulula CBD Mushrooms, THC. Visit TallahasseeCBD.com.
NFL Week 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be out west in Los Angeles. They'll take on the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. The Bucs have won 3 straight as they go to 7-6, and they now lead the NFC South by 1 game over the Atlanta Falcons. They'll face a Chargers team that is the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, allowing just 16 points per game. They sit at 8-5. Jacksonville hosting Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets Sunday. Jags coming off a win against Tennessee. Sunday in Nashville, that snapped a 5-game losing skid. They are 3-10. The Jets have lost 4 straight. They are also 3-10. College basketball, Florida State playing Tulane Saturday and Sunrise at the Orange Bowl Classic. Seminoles are 7-3. Florida at 9-0 and ranked number 9 will face Arizona State Saturday in Atlanta. This sports update brought to you by Flomar's Pawn, Guns, and Gold. More than you might expect. I'm Tony Desiri, Real Talk 93.3.
Let's face it, winter can be a hard season. It's cold pretty much all the time. Blizzard. You have to shovel. Another blizzard. You slip on ice. But you know what makes winter suck a little less? Getting a free phone. Join Cricket Nation and get a free Samsung Galaxy A15 5G. Ooh, ouch. Welcome to enjoying more. Welcome to Cricket Nation. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Must open a new line on the $60 unlimited plan. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Order for Jennifer C. Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double sleeve? Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine? Did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year? Oh, really? That's great. Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year? Yeah, you just said that. Did you say I just said that? Yeah, I'm cutting you off. I can't have any more? Why not?
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
I'm Robert, and I'm a general pest technician at Paul's Termite and Pest Control. I have a fantastic job working for an amazing company. Every day, I take great satisfaction in knowing the work I do helps protect the health of the customers I'm honored to serve and their pets too. Many are now my friends. Paul's is a local North Florida-based company, and they are constantly teaching all of us techs about the ever-changing needs of our unique part of the world.
I'm Jay, and having the privilege to work with people like Robert and all of our employees is truly an honor. There is no doubt that the staff of Paul's Termite and Pest Control is the best in our industry. All of our people are local, and local really does mean something. We're North Floridians. Our kids go to school here. We shop here. We build relationships here, and we honor our commitments. To all of our customers, thanks for trusting us to protect your family, pets, and home.
For the elimination of termites, any other pests, and a greener lawn too, call Paul's. We'll get them all.
Social Kitchen is your go-to premier market for the holidays. Social Kitchen has premium meats, homemade sides, prepared meals, and custom charcuterie boards for all of your holiday hosting. Headed to a holiday party? Stop by and grab dips, spreads, and other prepared items for the entire party. Located off Cary Forest next to Ology, Social Kitchen has everything you need this holiday season. Go to socialkitchentlh.com or drop in to see what Social Kitchen has fresh and ready for you today.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing And listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here as always, pseudo solo today, but you guys are here in the chat. Appreciate that as well. Fire away if there's any questions to get to. I was kind of touching on something a moment ago before we went to break and talking about, look, over the years, I've made it no secret, especially the latter version of Gus Malzahn, I wasn't a fan of. Talked about that offense is not one that I want my teams to run. And then we've watched a ton of college football changes, pro football changes over the years, some of which incorporated a lot of those elements and then utilized them in certain ways within other types of schemes, which I thought was interesting. I think it's good for the game in a lot of ways. You don't like things to become stagnant. There's an era of college, of pro football, I should say, that spans 25 to 35 years where everybody runs the exact same things. And it got a little weird, and then times changed, and all of a sudden you had the run and shoot and a lot of these other things, and it brought some freshness to the sport. So I'm open for that idea, or certainly stealing, because there's nothing new under the sun, stealing elements of certain things that I like while running something that's more tradition based, or that's not even the right way to say it, something that's more accessible with pro athletes than with, say, collegiate athletes and those that you're, looking to groom for a certain system. That said, I don't know what's normal anymore in college football. And I said, look, we've seen lots of examples now where coaches who failed in one place succeeded in another, those who've succeeded in one place and failed in another, which challenges your idea of how it all works anymore. And we certainly know the norms have changed across the board in college football when it comes to recruiting and when it comes to implementing an offense or a defense, when it comes to what will or will not work in the era of unlimited transfers, transfer portal in general, and NIL. And I am beginning to think that oddly, and it will likely change again when there are some unilateral rules put in place that everybody has to adhere to and abide by, that is, kind of universally known, and that will stabilize football again. And when that happens, because this is untenable, like no matter what side of the fence you were on when it came to what degree you were willing to pay players or what degree you thought they should have compared to, say, a coaching staff or coaches in general, what freedoms to come and go that they have that coaches did or didn't have. And no matter where you sat in all this, I think most fair-minded people realize that they probably deserved something above and beyond scholarships. That was fine. We could have that debate. We could have a fun discussion, a back and forth on that. But I think even if you were the most aggressive of the people that were in the camp of players having the opportunity to transfer without sitting out, players, certainly certain select players, for example, how many millions of dollars did a player like Jameis Winston make for the university? Millions of dollars did Charlie Ward or Warwick Dunn. By the way, congratulations, Warwick Dunn. So cool to see him inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, and he's a great person and a great ambassador for Florida State, and for that matter, humanity. But he was a hell of a fun football player to watch. Anyhow, those kinds of guys, because of jersey sales, ticket sales, and obviously what they do to the brand and how they change and shape opinions about Florida State forevermore, would be in a place where you would think fairly they deserve to make more money than the average Joe. Certainly like a backup right guard, for example. And so even if you were in that camp, you would admit, and I pretty much was in that camp, you would admit that this is not something that is sustainable. And having unlimited transfers and the ability to play somewhere for a year, leave, play somewhere for another year, leave, play somewhere for another year, leave, play somewhere for another year, leave, and putting coaches and programs in a position to where they have to re-recruit their own roster as well as try to bring in high school recruits, to say nothing of what it's done to high school recruiting in general, especially for those that aren't the creme de la creme of high school sports. It's the trickle-down effect of where we're at in college football right now is a very long and interesting conversation and a separate show altogether. But the point would be this: if you're no longer in a position to recruit, let's say you wanted to run an offense that was dissimilar to Gus Malzahn's. And for years, I would have said, I'm in that camp. I don't want to run this offense. I called it gimmicky, although there were aspects of it that I liked, but I'd called, by and large, it was gimmicky in my mind. For a very long time, I felt that way. And then we began to see success stories. It started, actually, ironically, really kind of with the Gus Malzahn offense at Auburn, and taking a former defensive back and making him a quarterback that got all the way to the national championship game against us. And you saw some of the success that an Oregon had, or some of these other programs that ran, I guess, again, for the purpose of labeling, non-traditional offense. Anyhow, I began to kind of cave in a little bit to the idea that, there isn't a certain way that you have to run a program or operate an offense, certainly, that you can have elements of things that in the past I would have labeled as gimmicky. And I think we may be headed in that direction until these changes that I speak of are made, more so now than ever before. You don't have the luxury anymore of bringing in a quarterback and saying to him, all right, look, year one, I run a complex pro-style offense. There's a lot you have to learn and a lot that you're responsible for. You're going to have to manage the entirety of an offense. You're going to have to understand. By the time you start, I need you to have not just a thorough understanding of what we run and the concepts and why, but also what everybody else does. Because if this is going to operate at peak efficiency, you have to be the kind of player that can come to the line of scrimmage with that knowledge in the back of your head with a play call, and you have to be able to look at a defense, opt out of that, check into something else and know why we're doing that, communicate that effectively to your linemen for protection purposes, and to your wide receivers, and to your running backs and tight ends. And then you have to be able to process that extremely quickly and get the ball out of your hands to the right receiver with the right look each and every time as the game goes along. In essence, you're going to have to operate the way that, say, Peyton Manning did in the NFL. That's where we're trying to get to with you by the time you start. So that means you're going to redshirt your freshman year. That means that there's, in all likelihood, there's zero chance you're playing the next year, which is your redshirt freshman year. You're not going to play your sophomore year. And then you should be ready to go by the time you're a junior. But don't worry, because in front of you, I have a guy that's been through that process. And in addition to what we do daily and what we work on in our group meetings, segment meetings, and what we do in the off season, and the materials that I'll give you to study and the videos you'll be able to look at and all of the things, you'll have this other player who's been here for some time, and he'll help teach you that system. He'll help from a player's vantage point as opposed to a coach's vantage point. A lot of times you guys who play football understand that coaches will speak a certain way, and you'll learn from them and you'll do your due diligence. But then when the bullets fly, so to speak, and you get out on the field and things are happening quickly, it operates a little bit differently than it did in the meeting room. And one of the best things that can happen to you in a situation like that, when you're trying to learn a new scheme or a new system or something you haven't done before, is to have a player come over to you and say, hey, look, when he says this is how it looks. This is what he means. When you see this is what you do, and here's why. That's what that means. So you have this wonderful dichotomy of a coach teaching you a system and players who are operating under the system and have been for some time, and then translating that language to you in real time on the field at game speed in practice and obviously when you get your opportunities in games. Like that That's an ideal world, but it doesn't exist anymore. You don't know if any quarterback that you bring in to run whatever system you're running is going to be here next year, next month. You don't know that there's not some other team who liked your abilities coming out of high school and thought that you could be an elite player in their offense, that they lost out on you in recruiting and they went a different direction. That guy's not having the kind of success they were hoping for. Why not call Larry again, man? I really liked Larry coming out of high school. We tried desperately to get Larry in here, but Larry committed to FSU, and I see they've got him on the bench. They're redshirting him. He's not playing at all. It doesn't look like he's going to play anytime soon. Call Larry, let him know. We got a couple $100,000. If he wants to come in here right now, I know from what I saw when I recruited him that he's got a chance to play for us right here, right now. And then you lose that player. And all of that time and all of that effort and all of the money or whatever else you put into it is gone just like that. And you're left high and dry. It's a long-winded way of me saying that I think it's looking more and more like, and this isn't necessarily good for the game at all, but it's looking more and more like what you're going to have to do is run pretty simplistic systems. Pretty cut and paste. I can teach you this day one. It's predicated on a few simple principles, such as reading the end or counting. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do it at tempo. We're going to play fast. And if you get this on first down, it goes to this, and from there it goes to this, and we're going to roll you out, and you've got a 1/2 of the field read. It's very simple. It's there or it's not, and you go, and we'll add to it the more you master these simple principles. And I that's why I say I don't know anymore. It doesn't have to be an offense that in a traditional sense that I like. It doesn't have to be something where you'd say, if this were my team professionally and I had guys coaching players who were professionals and who were guaranteed to be here under contract for the next 3 or 4 years, I could draft them in the 5th round, knowing that I only expect them to play, say, on special teams if they're a defensive player. I can get them out there on special teams. I can begin to indoctrinate them in what we do. There are no real expectations in year one that they're going to get on the field, save for special teams. And, a year 2, year 3, I got a guy. I got a dude now, and I know where he's going to be. And if he's made the kind of progress that I was hoping for, we'll re-up him, extend him, whatever we'll do. I don't have to worry about him. I know where he is every day. I know that nobody can come take him. And I know that he's studying what I need him to be studying because he's a professional athlete. If he's not, I'll get rid of him. But that's how this works. You don't have that luxury anymore in college football at all. And you're probably just better off oversimplifying things and playing fast and knowing that you're going to probably lose some guys year over year, and to not be snake bitten by that, but rather adaptable and knowing that, okay, I got to go find another 1-year guy. But thank goodness my system allows for that. I'll go find somebody that I always thought was perfect to run this, and we'll go from there. I mean, that's what they're doing. I'm not trying to oversimplify Gus Malzahn's offense, and I'm not trying to discard what it was he did successfully and the changes he brought to college football. He was a pioneering coach. He gets credit for that. He deserves that. But I do think that it might just be an easier way to go about the process in modern college football, unless you're firmly established already and had a pipeline of, a back-to-back elite level classes, top 5 classes with a bunch of 5-stars where your base, where your floor is, 10-3, 9-4. If that's your floor, you can fall back on an off year and know that the guys coming down the pike are going to be fine. But that's not where Florida State's at right now. That's not where most of college football is at. There are very few programs that fit under that umbrella. So I find all of that fascinating. And I think that all these coaches you watch, they make moves. And, somebody mentioned before that sometimes it looks like Mike is operating from a place of desperation. He should be. He absolutely should be. If he didn't have the contract that he has, and if it had not been extended when it was, he would have been fired after this ridiculous season we just had. There's no excuse at Florida State to go 2-10. You have too many resources. You have access to a fertile ground of talent throughout the Southeast, even when you whiff on the 5-star KJ Bolden, and even when you whiff on whomever it is you want to point to that they've whiffed on, and they have, your fallback should be a good enough player that you're never going to go 2-10. So make no mistake, all of these actions are born from desperation, and they must be. And he's trying to make an informed decision, one that's comfortable as well, at least in the case of Gus Malzahn and some of the other assistants that he's known. He's trying to make a decision on the fly that what he thinks is going to work for next season, and it has to work at a high level. So we can talk about wanting to develop quarterbacks. I would have liked for Luke Kromenhoek to stay here. I think Luke Kromenhoek has a lot of tools. Luke Kromenhoek has a great arm. He's a big, strong kid. He's tough. He's a lot of things that I like in a quarterback. He's a kid that hadn't played a ton of quarterback, not even in high school. And he's a kid that may go on to have great success. I wish him well. I hope he does. But given the circumstance that Mike found himself in, and that's his own doing, I'm not saying that I feel terribly sorry for him. He's paid handsomely not to go 2-10. He's not a volunteer. But he is in this predicament. He does have to go win games. He does have to go win games right now. He's got to go win, more than 6, let's put it that way, next year. And I don't know that Luke was a guarantee to handle this offense year one in Gus Malzahn's system to the level you would need to go out and accomplish a goal like that. And I'm not so sure that we're at a place where we can still operate under the old school way of thinking, which is that I'll just bring in a guy and I'll stick by him. And if things don't go well, that's okay. I understand we're going to take our lumps for a couple of years because he'll get it by the time he's a junior. You may not be here to get to see that junior year. And I think a lot of these guys now know I got to change the way I view program building. And I think it's going to be true even of some of the sustainable big-time programs. Like, it doesn't take much to fall off a cliff. Florida State just found that out the hard way, and they made many mistakes, and they might be the outlier, and I think they were. I don't think you should go 2-10. I think the worst you should expect is what you saw at Michigan this year. And the worst you should expect is when you have a fall off after a bunch of guys, like what happened at Florida State, a bunch of guys go to the NFL, you lose top-tier talent, NFL talent, and you go from winning 13 games with 10 guys that are playing in the league to 2-10. But you ought not. You ought to, maybe worst-case scenario, go to 6-6. You might go 7-5, something like that. That's where you've got to go. But I think these what on the surface appear to be alarming drop-offs or success stories. Like, you can look at it that way too. The Indiana success story. You could look at Dilly doing what's happening right now at Arizona State. I think this is going to be more the norm right now until those changes that I'm talking about being implemented happen. You're going to see a lot of disparate seasons. You're going to see a lot of weirdness in the sport. Look all around. We see it every day. Bill Belichick just got hired by North Carolina. He is making 4 times the amount of the basketball coach in Chapel Hill. And wasn't it cute that they're now calling him Chapel Bill? And while on the surface it would appear to be a bit of a joke predicated on the fact that Bill Belichick wants his son to be the head coach and has had that worked into the deal, that his son become the head coach in waiting, if reports are accurate, for when he leaves, and given that he is 72 years old, suffice to say, he's not going to be there long, 3 to 4 years. It looks like a joke. It seems like it's not going to work. It would appear to be a publicity stunt to some extent, a publicity stunt that's going to work. There's no show in the country that doesn't feature college football in the sports talk realm today that isn't mentioning Bill Belichick's hire. Probably good for the ACC for that matter. But I can't tell you for certain it won't work. How much money does he have to work with? How big is that staff going to be? I would guess sizable. You already saw, by the way, he's bringing in Lombardi to be his GM. Michael Lombardi, if you guys don't know, he's been on a network called VSiN now for the last couple of years, which is a gambling network that I rather enjoy. And, he's the former GM in the NFL. He's a NFL personnel executive turned media personality. You see him sometimes on other national shows and things of that ilk. He's joining Bill Belichick to be the GM of the program at North Carolina. He worked in the NFL from 1984 to 2007. He was briefly the GM of the Browns in 2013. He was an assistant to the coaching staff in New England from 2014 to 2016. He's going with him. This staff is probably going to be massive. They're going to operate it as if they're assessing personnel to pay, as they now do, and that, you'll be in charge of constantly mining the landscape of high school and other college football programs for the next guys that we're going to come in. This is not going to be a traditional effort to recruit, is my point. The idea that Bill Belichick is going to what? Develop a true freshman that he gets out of a high school at 72, 73 years old. He's going to say to him, oh, yeah, I'll be here for 4 or 5 years for sure. What about the next year when he goes to recruit somebody? Oh, yeah, no, I'll be here till I'm 80. No, man, that ain't going to happen. So they're going to be portal heavy. They're going to do, as we saw Indiana do this past year, as we saw Dillingham do at Arizona State, and as obviously we watched Deion do at Colorado. There are going to be moments where it's succeeding, moments where it's failing, and everything in between, and projecting whether or not long-term this is going to work. It's all going to be based on whether or not the rules change and how college football operates. It's a long-winded way of saying these are crazy-ass times in college football. It's not all for the good. Some of it's very much for the bad. But there's also some elements of it that I love. We had the most unpredictable and wild college football season we've had in years, and that I rather enjoyed. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Holy moly, this hot tub is nice. I wonder if I can keep this one and take it back to the North Pole with me.
I really think we got to get you back on the sleigh, Santa. I don't think the Sandersons are going to appreciate the cookie crumbs floating in their hot tub when they wake up.
Okay, let's make a stop at Swain Pools and Spas and pick up a gift card from Mrs. Claus and put a big floating bow on it.
The perfect gift for Christmas this year is an amazing hot spring or caldera spa from Swain Pools and Spas. Stop by today to get the best price in town with delivery and setup just in time for the new year. Visit Swain Pools and Spas on Tharp Street under the huge sign. Online at swainpools.com.
And right next to Swain Pools and Spas is Tallahassee Car Care. Stop in today for everything from an oil change and brake repair and tires to alignments and transmission. Big or small, we do it all. It's Tallahassee Car Care, the only repair shop where you can take a dip while we repair your whip. Tallahassee Car Care, right next to Swain Pools and Spas.
Hi, this is Alex from Fulmers. Are you looking for that hard-to-find person on your Christmas list? At Fulmers, we are loaded down with one-of-a-kind items. Vintage guitars, pre-owned tools, electronics. Did you know we carry Louis Vuitton purses, bags, and wallets? Fulmers has a large selection of new and pre-owned firearms. And don't forget about our large selection of gold and silver jewelry, all discounted at 50% off. At Fulmers, we make your dollars go further. Shop early for the best selection, and don't forget to ask about our great layaway plan. Fulmers Pawn, 2 times more than you might expect, with 2 great locations. This is Alex from Fulmers. We've been buying gold and silver jewelry, fine watches, and other collectibles for over 45 years. But did you know Fulmers buys and sells gold and silver coins, bars, and bullion? Don't get scammed online or pay high shipping and handling fees. Call or stop by Fulmers for a quick and easy quote. No matter if you're new to investing in bullion or have been collecting a lifetime, Fulmers is your local source for buying, selling gold and silver coins and bullion. Fulmers, more than you might expect, with 2 great locations.
Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the Battle's End. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653. Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
You could argue, and I would say this is probably accurate. I was talking about simplifying kind of what you run now, understanding that you don't have the same sustainability within a program stemming from recruiting and development as you once had with the instability of roster building now, given that everybody can go anywhere, anytime they want, in fact. And so I did theorize this going back to this part of it, going back, and I wanted to see it too in the NFL, and you are to some degree in certain places. But this is just following trends over the years. This is not incredibly insightful or anything like that. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. What I'm saying is that when offenses become a certain way and defenses are struggling, they always adapt, right? And then we see something that works, and then everybody jumps on board that whatever that thing is, right? And then it's the offense's turn to adapt. And then they do, and something new happens, and everybody adapts on defense, et cetera. And back and forth we go. And I did wonder, as offenses were flying high, and they're not right now in the NFL, let's put it that way, not the way they were, would we begin to see a shift to something much simpler, which is like a much more old school fundamental running game, where everything is predicated off of running downhill and being physical and holding the ball a little bit longer. Those things travel. If you play football in inclement weather like many of the Big Ten schools did or do, you've seen this over the years. Certain styles of play are preferred in the Big Ten as opposed to in warm weather climates, and they have to be. They have to be. And we know that this is true in the NFL to a certain extent as well. I did wonder if you could play some version of bully ball and just run downhill and smash mouth people into, submission if you dedicated yourself to it. Now, Michigan won the Invitational doing just that. You didn't need much from the quarterback. They had a wide variety of runs, and they recruited at an elite level on the offensive line. And so you had the horses to do it. It will be intriguing to see this dramatic shift in what Florida State does. And I say dramatic shift, that's not really right. Many of these principles are the same. Mike is a disciple to some extent of what Gus Malzahn does and worked with him at Tulsa and incorporated within his own offense the things that he learned from Gus. So they're not too radically different. I shouldn't say it that way. The point would be certainly that Gus, even in years in which his teams failed to have success, meaning they didn't have a winning record or they weren't elite or whatever you want to look at, the things that define winning and losing and success, they always ran. They always ran the ball well. And if you tell me that next year Florida State is going to run the ball well, and they are going to play a style of defense which, by the way, stops the run, and that we do know that's what they're going to do. That's what Tony White has done. Okay. Then I think you're going to see a much more physical brand of football all the way around. And I know Ira brought it up in hour number one, but it's true, man. When something goes south, you run into the arms of something that is the antithesis just because you can't stand to sit idly by in this thing that is failing. I'll try this. And I know that's an extreme example because we're not doing that, but They are going to run the ball, and they are going to stop the run. And if you do that, you have to be very physical for that to succeed, which does, again, I'll reiterate, tell me that practice is going to be different. I think my favorite thing from yesterday is hearing coaches say that if you want to be tough, you can't talk about being tough. You have to be tough, and that comes from practice. That comes from playing that way on a daily basis. That comes from what you do every day. Now, even that is a bit of a misnomer. It is not 50 years ago. You are not going to be tackling to the ground every single day in football practice the way you once did. You're not going to be doing the kind of punishing, brutal, physical drills that they once did for years and years and years and years in college football. But I do think there is a version of that exists that incorporates the more modern viewpoint of how practice should be run and getting players rest, et cetera, that Florida State could really benefit from. And we talked about that 2-3 years ago as well. Hearing those coaches yesterday talk about it without saying that, hey, things are going to change in practice, that was good. That was encouraging. I'll put it that way. That's necessary because it permeates everything you are and do from that point forward. And for those of you that were disgusted with the half-ass efforts to tackle last year and the half-ass efforts to be physical, you won't have to worry about that. Now, I don't know if Florida State's going to, suddenly go out and win 9 games next year and get back to being an elite club that makes the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to happen next year. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot to be seen and a lot that remains to be seen about how Mike gets this overhaul done. I got to believe that he's going to get some things right. He's going to get some things wrong, and we'll see, which of those elements most impact the team. They, when I think of the undertaking, I'm not so quick to say that I'm certain this is going to work. I'm just also not so quick to say that I know that it can't. We've never seen college football in this state. Like we've not seen what college football is now ever. And 2-10 might become 8-4. 13-0 went to 2-10. The reigning invitational champion lost 5 games this year. Would have been 6 if they hadn't pulled off a 21-point upset of Ohio State, meaning they were underdogs to that extent on the road. By the way, think about that again. What a miserable set of circumstances for Ohio State fans who had to have been as certain of a win in that game as maybe they had been in years and years and years. If you watched Michigan this year, you saw a team that was as offensively flawed as any reigning national champion could possibly be. And the walk-on that wins it, who wasn't any good at all. I mean, just imagine. In some ways, that's where having lofty expectations serves as a running kick to the cojones. By about week 4, you and I had no expectations of Florida State football except for the margin that they would lose by. Not a good thing. Not something you want to wrap your arms around and celebrate. Not something to say, yeah, but at least I got it. But man, that'll hurt your feelings. I know it hurt theirs. Shannon Young, loansforknowles.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation is where he is. I mentioned before that Shannon's a fellow Knoll, works hard, help his borrowers and those that are looking to get into a new home and realize dreams, save money, do all those things. I can guarantee you he'll go the extra mile for you. Loansforknowles.com. Shannon Young, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Loansforknowles.com.
Your local news now.
A groundbreaking ceremony was held at the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services' new state-of-the-art facility Tuesday. The 256,000 square foot facility is expected to consolidate around 940 FDICS employees across 13 divisions in Tallahassee into one single location. The facility is expected to save the department and Florida taxpayers more than $70 million. The facility is expected to be completed in late 2027. New teachers could be required to get active shooter training before they step foot in a classroom. A proposal filed this week could make that training a requirement to get a teaching certificate in Florida. The proposal wouldn't add any additional class hours. Prospective teachers would need to get a teaching certificate in the state. Representative Daley tried to get this bill passed last year. Despite having wide support, it did not make it fully out of the committee process. This is Rachel Anay with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. 56 this afternoon under clear skies, northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, 38. Daytime highs approaching 65 tomorrow, mainly clear skies. Partly cloudy skies and dry Saturday and Sunday, upper 60s Saturday, low 70s by Sunday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 54 degrees.
Dream it, plan it, do it. Brian Barnard's Flooring America offers a straightforward way to shop with our streamlined shopping. Finding the right flooring is simple. Visit our newly remodeled showroom featuring the Room to Explore shopping experience, where our knowledgeable staff will walk you through the steps. Our family has been serving the area since 1976 with a local staff of more than 35 people trained in flooring sales and design. We know floors and we know styles. Let us help make your home timeless. Brian Barnard's Flooring America, where friends send friends.
There it is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. You two at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude, I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No, I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Florida, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Rolling on a Redemption Thursday, circling back. I mentioned Matt Hayes wrote a piece. If you don't know Matt Hayes, he's a guy that is always, Matt Hayes is an annoying guy. Let's put it that way, who's written many things unfavorable to Florida State. I think it's suffice to say you guys know that, right? There was a quote in the article that I think certainly concerned a lot of us to read it when you saw it. And it caused me to pause and have to think a little bit more about, A, the point of the article, and B, why it would have been said. But the headline of the article in the USA Today Sports section was, after formal ACC exit notice, Florida State now says, we never said we wanted to leave. Now, this is a bit about semantics. And I mentioned before that when your actions speak that loudly, meaning what you actually did as opposed to what you said, then it really matters not what you're saying. A little bit on the play of your actions are so loud I can't hear what you're saying. And the more I looked at the quote, where that is the one that is attributed to Michael Alford, the more I thought that it sounded an awful lot like a guy who didn't feel like talking to Matt Hayes. Drew Weatherford's quote might have been a little bit more disconcerting, where, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, if we'd like to stay, if we can make it work out, we will, but if not, then we'll look at other options. Look, at the bottom line is Florida State's actions. This is what is true, right? they filed a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit in August of 2023. That tells you what their intentions are. Now, if you recall, there was a time where Michael Alford was over in Jacksonville for the ACC meetings, and I thought he was awfully magnanimous in the way in which he spoke about Jim Phillips and the ACC. And this is not long after, obviously, we had plenty of opportunities to have dialogue about Florida State's intentions and what they're going to do, and the time to get out of this godforsaken conference and all of it. And then remember, Warchant had Peter Collins on, and we'd seen that Florida State had made it abundantly clear that they knew to stay in this conference was simply untenable. And in fact, at that time, there were comments made, I believe by Drew Weatherford as well. It's not a matter of if, but when. And the more you look at Alford's comments subsequently over time, the more I'm left to believe that, I'm trying to think of how to word this, attorneys are telling him to not inflame the situation with the ACC, not to say things that could be used against you. Now, I would say to Michael Alford, if I were an attorney, don't say anything at all. If Matt Hayes calls you about a comment or wanting a comment about your situation, your lawsuit, the ACC, your relationship, any of it, no comment. I mean, we've said what we needed to say. He goes on to say that the league knows where we stand. Yeah, they do, because you sued them. You threatened, you left. You're in a jurisdiction fight with North Carolina and Florida. One of the things that you might want to argue against the ACC is that they prematurely went forward with their lawsuit against you. And it'd be hard to argue that if around every turn you besmirch the ACC and denigrate the ACC, short of already having made it abundantly clear what you want to do. Now, what I then began to wonder about as I read that article, Matt Hayes' article, A, there was nothing new in the article, and B, I thought that it was almost, it was pithy. If you go back and look, he says that he had heard the USA Today. Here, I put it down here. 3 people told USA Today earlier this spring. All right, so think how long ago that was. Think about how long ago that was. Earlier this spring, that there were that nobody there was no landing spot for Florida State. That the Seminoles landing in the Big Ten or the SEC was not realistic. The sources spoke on the condition, of course, of anonymity to protect the sensitivity of the discussions. Also in that article, there was the thought that the Big Ten had reservations about Florida State's ability to be a strong partner moving forward. It now appears the reality that the Noles have nowhere to go is setting in. Well, that's an opinion, first of all, from Matt Hayes. Number 2, first of all, that the Big Ten, the people said, had reservations. The people had reservations about Florida State's ability to be a strong partner moving forward. I'm not saying there wasn't somebody that may have said that you used for your story under the condition of anonymity, but nobody serious said that in an official setting. Secondly, who are we kidding? We're talking about a league that joined forces with the ACC and the Pac-12 and said, yeah, this is crazy what's going on in college football. We got to put an end to this. The SEC is a tyrant. Sports being ruined. So they smash and grab, name programs from traditional conferences. It's got to stop. Well, let's unify. Make sure this doesn't continue. at least for another day or two, and we take USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon away from the Pac-12. Can't trust them. Not sure they would be a strong partner moving forward. This reads as a hit piece. It reads as a regurgitated hit piece, and I really am not sure why. I'm not really sure other than the long history of Matt Hayes hating Florida State. And when you hear Alfred's quote when he was asked, is Florida State any closer to a resolution? This is from the article. Alfred's quote is, let's see if I can find it. Who knows? That's not for me to decide. I'm not on that side of the wall. We'll see. They know where we stand. Well, I don't know that I would have said that, but it's also very dismissive, and it strikes me as the kind of thing you would say if you were perturbed talking to somebody that you didn't feel like talking to. It strikes me as the kind of thing that you would say that you could end the phone call. Look, clearly Florida State wanted to leave the ACC. And you don't need to get into a semantics argument about whether or not that's true. In fact, I think we have audio that goes back a ways in which Michael Alford fully supported the board's decision to file the lawsuit and to leave. I think we have that audio now.
You know, the future of college athletics is really at a crossroads. I think Chairman and I talk about that a lot. President and I talk about that a lot. Whether it's known media contracts that present financial challenges or proposed recent changes by the NCAA, that's going to impact everyone in this industry's operation budgets moving forward. Here at Florida State, we have to evaluate all of our options and make decisions here that are going to have a 10, 20-year impact on us. And some of those we don't even see or feel in the immediate effects of it. But as I sit here, you know, this isn't a relationship decision or an issue at all. It is a simple math problem, a very clear math problem. And it's an extremely difficult institutional decision, but us completely support the board's vote.
So could he say in that moment, I never said I wanted to leave? Yeah, I guess you could. Florida State's actions, those quotes tell you they absolutely intended to leave. And they took action accordingly. I wouldn't comment any more about it to any other reporter anywhere at any point moving forward. I don't think it behooves Michael Alford. I don't think it behooves Florida State or anybody associated with this situation to talk about it. The lawsuit is the lawsuit. It's in the hands of the courts now. There's nothing that you can say that is going to be beneficial here. Florida State is hell-bent on leaving the ACC or, and I suppose this is the angle that Mike Alford would take and tell you, or work out a much different financial arrangement that allows them to compete with the SEC and Big Ten programs financially on an annual basis. To stop short of that or those efforts is a failure on his part and the university's part. You have to, if you seek to be a major player in college football forevermore, you have to be able to eat from the same money trough that the Big Ten and the SEC are currently doing. Otherwise, you risk falling well behind financially and into a hole that you cannot compete. They knew that. That's why they did what they did. There was no, I mean, and they did the right thing. Now, has Florida State always been made to look its best? Are they always shining bright in the light as the cameras turn their way in the midst of the things that have happened in the last 12 to 18 months? No, and they don't do a lot to always help themselves in that regard. It's certainly on the heels of those actions and the rather stern and tough talk of that meeting that was on YouTube for all to see. It would be nice if you didn't follow up 13-0 with 2-10. It'd be nice that, you didn't sometimes say things that could be perceived as foolish. But there was never any doubt that Florida State intended to leave, because I think they know that there isn't going to be an agreed upon number that approaches anything close to what they have to make in order to be on equal footing and compete on equal footing with SEC teams or Big Ten teams. I can also say that it's awfully silly of Matt Hayes to circle back to last spring. Hell, we're almost in this spring. A lot of things that happened in my life, your life, everybody's life 8-9 months ago shift over time, change over time, more information, more obviously information leads to a lot of changing of opinions and thoughts about what is possible. I mean, because 9 months ago, somebody might not have been interested in Florida State in that moment and willing to give you a quote that they wouldn't anyhow. But secondarily, what's to say a month and a half later that, the Big Ten wasn't interested? I assure you they were. That seemed petty. That seemed like something you would do to take a shot as opposed to report. There was nothing really new with that. The headline itself is sort of clickbaity. After formal ACC exit notice, Florida State now says we never said we wanted to leave. If you click on that story, by the way, it gets better. There's another headline that is also equally slanderous. And, the more you look at the article, the more you're like, well, you're trying to give a gotcha moment, but there's no real gotcha there. Nothing's really changed at all. So, at first I was upset with Michael Alford, and I thought, why are you talking to this clown? Why are you even bothering? There's nothing you're going to say that he's not going to turn and spin and utilize for the purposes of the story with the angle that he already has. Don't do it. Don't give him anything. But I would say that's true of anybody that calls you regarding this subject. Regarding the subject of Florida State staying, going, wanting to leave, going to leave, dialing into semantics. There's no reason to have the conversation. The actions of the university, the actions of Florida State tell you already what they intend to do, what they want to do, what they're hopeful happens, and you don't need to comment on it any further. Tried and True Consulting, my boys. Their ad program, saving you money, making you money, exposing what it is your business does in a positive way to more and more people. Give them a call today. 844-463-6653. That's 844-463-6653. Hour number 3 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Best happy hour in the city is at Café de Martín and El Bar. All day, every day, you can find great deals at Café de Martín while enjoying the best outdoor seating Tallahassee has to offer. Sip away on 2-for-1 house wines, Chilcanos, and margaritas all day long, Monday through Thursday. Plus 2-for-1 pisco sours and margaritas on Fridays and Saturdays, and 2-for-1 mimosas for Sunday brunch. Come join us at Café de Martín, where every hour is happy hour, in the Esposito Shopping Center on Capitol Circle Northeast.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Investors, are you looking for a creative way to purchase your next rental property? Are you looking to get into the Airbnb space? If so, you need to know about DSCR loans. It stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. These are loans that do not require traditional income verification. As long as the proposed rent covers the mortgage payment on the subject property, that's the only income you need. If you're looking at investing and don't know if you can qualify, let's set up a plan to get your next income-producing property and start putting you on a path to passive income. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. And don't forget, every fellow Knoll that we close a loan for, I will personally make a donation of $250 to the Battle's End. It's Shannon Young at 954-369-6171.
Equal Housing Limited, NMLS 373030. Oh, whoa! Check out Pinch a Penny. We're stocked to the rafters with Hot Spring Spas, a recognized leader. Imagine the fun of the holidays with warmth, relaxation, and lovely bubbles. And with 30 home spas for you to see right now. Affordable right now, too. Up to $2,000 off or special financing. Ask for details. Is the world stressing you out like that? Penny. Now to assure these prices. Pinch a Penny, open 7 days a week on Career Road.
Hey, everybody, it's Ed Dean along with Roger Henderson, also with FloridaDaily.com. Just want to remind you, daily 4 to 6 in the afternoons right here in Tallahassee on Real Talk 93.3 FM. Roger, it is literally the 2 fastest hours anywhere in afternoon talk radio.
And if you think the country's going crazy, we'll help you make sense of it all.
Oh, yeah, we'll try to make some sense of it. Again, Monday through Friday in the afternoons, Ed Dean, Roger Henderson on 93.3.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate NFL sports source. Sign up today.
This is Real Talk 93.3. More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next. Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas. Brought to you by Palmar's Pawn, Gun and Gold. More than you might expect with 2 great locations in Tallahassee.
Jaguars and Jets at Everbank Stadium on Sunday. The Jets are the 3-point road favorite as they look to end a 4-game losing streak. The total is 40.5. On Sunday, Jaguars coming off a 10-6 win at Tennessee in which they snapped a 5-game losing streak. Florida Gators bet up to a 14-point favorite over Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl next Saturday. Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah transferring to the Duke Blue Devils, and there's the number, and it's moved up from 9.5 all the way to 14 in favor of the Gators. Tampa Bay Lightning today, $1.55 road favorite of the Calgary Flames, 6 over the total. Cash back for every bet with a GBank signature Visa card. Visa.com/GBank. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to shop new deals at Lowe's. Make your home even merrier with up to 50% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees, holiday lights, and more. Plus, don't miss our limited time weekly deal drops on items like appliances, tools, and grills. There's something for everyone on your list. Count on Lowe's to help you save all season long, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 12/5 through 12/11 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Juice Reel is a free betting app that links all of your betting accounts, giving you in-depth analytics on your betting history. DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, Prize Picks, and any sportsbook app can be linked through Juice Reel. Track your straight bets, parlays, and props all in the app. Juice like orange juice, Reel, R-E-E-L. Juice Reel, free in the App Store. Use the promo code FLASH, F-L-A-S-H, for $50 in free app currency. That's Juice Reel, free in the App Store.
Tallahassee is full of rich history and traditions. When you think of things that jump out in the minds of longtime residents, the state capitol, McClay Gardens, the Springtime Tallahassee Parade, FSU and FAMU Sports, the St. Mark's Lighthouse, St. George Island, and Paul's Termite and Pest Control. Paul's has been protecting thousands of people, their pets, their homes, and their lawns in the capital region for over 50 years. Locally founded and still locally owned and operated. There aren't many businesses in our industry that keep it together that long. Paul's Pest Control has many customers we've been honored to serve for over the last 50 years. We've experienced tremendous changes in how we treat homes and protect the people that live there. We've moved from liquid termite treatments that require drilling into the home's foundation to Centricon, a baiting system which works with their natural biology. We've moved from interior service to exterior treatments for general pests. But one thing we're not going to change is our old-fashioned commitment to personal service for each of our customers, the same way we've been doing it for over 50 years.
For the elimination of termites, any other pests, and a greener lawn too,
Call Paul's.
we'll get them all.
In 1853, John Mason Neal wrote the lyrics for A Christmas Carol, telling the story of a good king who went out on the Feast of Stephen to bring food and firewood to a poor peasant. The king's page complained of the bitter cold when this saintly king instructed him follow in his footsteps. With each step, his feet were warmed along the journey. Thomas Helmore sent the inspiring lyrics to a 13th century tune and gave us Good King Wenceslas. And now you know another Christmas story.
From Whitten Glass on South Monroe since 1945 for window glass, mirrors, custom shower and bath enclosures, tabletops, and storefront glass. Online at whittenglass.com or call 850-222-5781. A closer look home inspections for the home you want to buy or the home you want to sell. Learn more at aclhomeinspections.com or call 850-312-8919.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Surprise! The voice has held up as long as it has. In fact, I think you guys would all admit, listening to About Town on 93.3 FM or watching on Warchant TV, the YouTube station, there in the chat, voice has never sounded better, does it? It's just robust, strong, affirmative. It is all that you wanted in this hour, this week, to try to get you to Friday. You're welcome for that. I'm here, solid as a rock. That's why I slept a lot yesterday. Drank tea and some coffee, then some more tea. And got some more rest. Invigorated by the cold, feeling good. Hey, good to be here. Thanks for being here with us. Today feels like a happy hour day. Like, I wish we were doing the show from a place where we could have. See, I'm so invigorated. I'm ready to have a couple of cold pops. Get us into the weekend. We got the bowling tournament coming up. That bowling tournament. The benefit of the Guardian ad litem is what that tournament does is Saturday, 3:00. I can see Tom. You guys can't see him, so I can ask him, is that thing filled yet, buddy? If not, we got one or two more. All right, let's go. There is room for you guys. Not much, but we've got 20 lanes. That's a lot of lanes. We're going old school at the Capitol Lanes, guys. Scheduling conflicts for us and for some places about town. And then I thought, let's just take it on back old school. Let's go back to the Capitol Lanes. First of all, there's a slew of lanes. We could get more teams, and they always treated us very, very well. And there's something old school about the Cap Lanes. So if you want to sign up, radio@warchant.com, radio@warchant.com, Saturday, 3 p.m. You got a team of 4? Let's go. Buck up. You'll feel better. You'll help folks. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. So there was a lot to get to this past hour. This show in general, Florida State is all over the place in the portal. It's kind of fun to watch and monitor. One thing I did not mention in each of the first 2 hours that I never got to, and I should have. I just feel disappointed. You remember when your parents? That was always the hardest thing. Like, I never minded getting yelled at. If I screwed something up and my mom or my dad or my stepdad yelled at me, I never really worried about it. I was always just kind of like, you could live with that. You get yelled at, you adhere to what they said and you'd move forward, whatever it was, right? It was when they came to you and told you that they were disappointed. That's when it got difficult. When you heard them say they were disappointed, you didn't know how to handle that. That felt a little bit more profound. Well, as it turns out, I feel, not that he cares one iota, But I feel disappointed that Marvin Jones Jr. is in the portal. Not because I would have lobbied for Marvin Jones Jr. to stay. Obviously, he was useless last year, gave us nothing. And his father, Marvin Jones, one of the three, in my estimation, greatest players to ever play football at Florida State. Marvin was more than a handful. Marvin was a beast. I feel privileged to have seen him in person, to have watched him play while I was an impressionable young man, while I was going to school, to be able to see that guy dominate games the manner in which he did. It struck me and stayed with me forevermore. Had he not got hurt with the Jets, I could only dream of what his career would have been. And it's better than people give it credit for. But it was nowhere near as dominant as his college career portended. And that was unfortunate because of the injury. But he still played like 9 years, whatever, made a Pro Bowl. He was an animal. And he played the game with such ferocity. He was so intimidating. And you watched guys just melt in his presence. It was unreal. And it stood to reason that he had a son who was a 5-star kid, 5-star athlete, and that Georgia won out for and that we lost out for. So you thought, man, wish we would have had our I's dotted, our T's crossed. We could have gotten Marvin Jones Jr. We would have brought in the legacy. This would have been, it was a can't miss, right? Gets to Georgia, isn't as productive as maybe many people thought he would be right off the bat. But then, who knows? They've got a slew of great players, and you figured he was just a little bit behind, but he was getting in games. He was getting in games for Georgia in the SEC towards the end of his first year. Anyhow, when we found out that he was coming to Florida State, I was over the moon. Why not? Another Jermaine Johnson possibility. You get him with that pedigree, knowing the measurables, and folks, to see him in person, to see Marvin Jones Jr. step onto the field at Florida State, that practice field, wearing that uniform, looking that way, you were sure, I promise you would have been sure that kid was going to be a menace. But alas, not a menace at all. Not a menace in the slightest. Didn't get any better. Didn't look like, more importantly, that he cared to be here. Didn't look like he cared to be here. Didn't look like he cared to play football. Now, this is a theory that I have. I could be completely wrong, admittedly. I don't feel like Marvin Jones Jr. loves playing football. I feel like he's blessed with the tools to play football at a very high level. I feel like he has the body and the strength and some of the measurables you need to dominate at the position that he plays. But I don't think he cares to tap into all of those things and push to that level. I could be wrong. Maybe the messaging at Georgia, maybe the messaging at Florida State just did not connect. And maybe Marvin Jones Jr. goes to Arizona State or goes to wherever, somewhere far away from the Southeast, somewhere far away from where his name is notable and where his dad's legacy looms large. Maybe he does. And maybe that unlocks all of that potential, and he has a great year and goes on to the NFL, and we think, oh, what could have been? But, man, disappointed is the right word for me to describe Marvin Jones Jr. brief time here in Tallahassee. Never seemed like he wanted it. And, look, I don't know. And I'm not judging him for that. There are lots of cases where kids play the game because their parents want them to play the game. And again, I'm not accusing Marvin Jones Sr. of this. I'm not saying this is what happened. My opinion, from what I could tell, is that was not a highly motivated young man to play the game of football from what I saw in practice and what I viewed in games. He didn't seem to be highly motivated to play. And I'm just trying to figure out why. And sometimes it's the simplest of reasons. It could just very well be he didn't want to play much football. He didn't love football. Maybe he doesn't love football. And football's a game you kind of have to love if you're going to be great. Very few, very, very few people in the history of the game of football could play football at a high level while having absolute disdain for the game of football, or the lack of a motor to want to hit or be hit and endure all that you have to endure to play a high level of football. Yeah, there have been some exceptions, some freaks of nature whose bodies just allowed for them to do things even half-assed that was better than 75% of the people out there who were going full bore. Yeah, it's existed before. It's very rare. But you have to really want to play football to be good because it's so damn hard. It's so physically taxing. It's so mentally draining. It's just so arduous and tedious, and it's hot, and it's all these things, right? Practice sucks. So I wish him well, but there have been a lot of names, obviously, that jumped into the portal. And when his did, I thought, damn it, man. Forgive me for not getting upset when DeMarco Ward entered the portal, or Jarrell Powers, or when I looked up and saw that Lamont Green Jr. or Julian Armella or Byron Turner or Jackson West or Dante Anderson or whomever. Those guys didn't really bother me. Okay, things happened. Time to move on. We sucked last year. A lot of guys got to go. Sure. Dead weight. Let's go. Grady Kelly is the latest, by the way. Marvin Jones Jr. yesterday. Grady Kelly today. Grady Kelly, a 1-year rental from this past year. I'd actually say Grady Kelly wasn't terrible. Didn't provide a ton, but wasn't terrible. Malik Benson, out of eligibility, has put his name in for the NFL draft. We'll see. He's very, very fast. Very, very fast. That's what he is. So Florida State now, what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 players in the transfer portal. Add another 5, 22 total players, 5 at the NFL draft. 22 players from last year's 2-10 campaign have said, I am out. Former FSU tight end Marquiston Douglas announcing he will return to FSU on his social media account. That is the latest news. Biscuit, as he was known when he was here, had a very, very high ceiling until he got lazy and ate too much. I know what that's like, Biscuit. I know what that's like, buddy. It can happen to us, all of us. You know? Beer tastes good. Food tastes good. It's easy. Next thing you know, you're like, look at that. I'm a fat ass that's got to get it together. Back to OTF for me. Let's go. So, Marquiston will get you on the tread. Get you running a little bit. Get the juices flowing. Marquiston Douglas made a catch in practice one time. Here you go. I'm allowed to tell you this. Standing next to Ira, I do believe. This is one of the best catches I've ever seen. That guy is massive. You've seen Marquiston Douglas. You know how big Biscuit is. To be that size, that weight, and to have the speed that he does being that big, but also the eye-hand coordination and overall athleticism. Well, I'll just celebrate a guy who I hope now knows and locks in and is motivated, understanding that potential is NFL potential. And he has NFL potential. He can block. It's a big kid. He has to want to. He has to be in shape. He has to care. He has to get locked in. You know, there are kids that leave your program. We've had several that go elsewhere and they do not succeed. They do not do anything that leaves you wanting. You're not sitting around thinking, well, damn it, I wish that kid hadn't left. Most of the kids that have left, you're like, yeah, well, it stands to reason. Didn't do much here, ain't doing much there. And even kids that you thought had real, high-end potential, that's happened with. Douglas was the one that when he left, I said to Tom, damn it, man, I like that kid. I liked his makeup. I liked what I thought he could do. But there were telltale signs of, a drop-off with him. And I think he got into the doghouse, and I don't think he enjoyed being told that he was in the doghouse. Didn't like being demanded of. And perhaps leaving and then seeing what it was like elsewhere and then maybe having a different perspective will do him wonders. I'm rooting for it to happen. Yeah, I saw Dan Mullen is off to UNLV. I would have thought that Dan Mullen would have held out for better, but I got to tell you, there are worse jobs than rolling on into Vegas, baby. Now, you know, you'd have to be careful if you were in Vegas as a head coach because you have money, you have means, you have opportunity, and there are lots of opportunities for things that would separate you from your job in Las Vegas. A lot of distractions in Las Vegas. Some of them are wonderful, especially if you have money. Some more Tampa-like. Not so wonderful. Kinds of things that get you pulled over at 3:27 a.m. as you pretend and tell a cop, "Oh, no, I was not soliciting that young lady for sex, sir. I was asking for directions." See David Justice. That was in Tampa, but you get the drift. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
No matter how busy life gets, your home is the place where your family and friends show you they care and celebrate with you. That's why the professionals at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning always make sure your home is comfortable. Just like those who matter to you most, Barano will always be there for you.
This is Tyler from Barano Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air, online at baranoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 1816186.
There's no heating and air conditioning.
Hey, this is Alex from Falmers. We know that you want to get the most value for the money you spend this holiday season. That's why we're discounting all of our gold and silver jewelry by 50%. All diamond earrings, pendants, and charms. Popular items like gold chains and necklaces. Even all wedding sets and engagement rings are discounted by 50%. At Falmers, we make your dollars go further. Shop early for the best selection, and don't forget to ask about our great layaway plan. Falmers, 2 times more than you might expect with 2 great locations. As you probably know, Falmers buys, sells, and loans on just about anything of value. What you might not know is that when you buy something from us, we guarantee the total satisfaction of your purchase. Buy it, take it home, and if for any reason you decide you don't want it within 7 days, Falmers will give you 100% of your money back. And if you decide you don't want the item within 30 days, Falmers will let you exchange it for something you do want. At Falmers, we guarantee you're going to be happy with your purchase or we'll buy it back. Falmers, check cashing, pawn service, and sales. 2 times more than you might expect with 2 great locations.
This is Jay of Paul Termite and Pest Control. There are many companies out there selling pest treatment programs at prices which seem too good to be true. Like most things, you get what you pay for. Let's separate the fact from the fiction. Fiction. The price these companies offer includes all visits needed to keep a home pest-free. Fact. Their prices only include regular visits for exterior treatments. If you encounter pests inside your home, these companies will charge you for additional visit. Is that really pest prevention? At Paul's Termite and Pest Control, we always apply exterior treatments, but our plan includes a significant difference. Whenever you encounter an interior problem, Paul's technicians are there, usually the same day you call, and there is no extra charge. With ProShield, you'll never pay extra for providing the service we promised. Pest prevention for your home, and we'll be there as many times as needed to honor our commitment with no extra charge. Paul's Termite and Pest Control is a local company that proudly served the Tallahassee area for over 50 years.
For the elimination of termites and any other pests,
call Paul's. We'll get them all.
And we make lawns greener, too.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Survey gets you going slower.
Visit IzerBay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness, 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road, and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Yeah, by the way, though, again, if you're thinking about wanting to run the football, well, bringing Biscuit in certainly can't hurt if you can get him to completely buy in as a blocker, and he could block when he wanted to. He's shown it. And we get back into this whole idea of, look, you need to find proven people that can do what you need them to do, and they have to have shown you at a college level that they can do it. He can do it. Look at T. Lizzie. He's up and about. Oh, hey, everybody. He's up and about. There's the guy.
Hi, buddy. How are you? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just talking some Florida State athletics as we're wont to do on occasion. You all right? Getting better?
I made the stroll across the abode from the bed to the office. So I wanted to tag in if you wanted somebody to talk to for a little while.
I always want somebody to talk to, buddy. That's fine. I rather enjoy it. It's been an eventful 24 hours since we last spoke, really. I mean, we got sick. That'll happen when you work near each other.
That did happen. That's a fact. Yes.
But in addition to us both getting sick, I would just say that from the departure standpoint to the arrival standpoint to, the places where, the coaches we're looking at and what they've done. By the way, we should talk and have some fun with this Bill Belichick hire. I have just learned my lesson now. I'm not willing. I'm just going to cast aside this idea that nothing, that it's a guarantee not to work. It might work. Bill Belichick, Tom, was told or was asked in his interview from the articles I've read over the last few days, in addition to wanting his son to be the next head coach, which makes you roll your eyes and pretty funny they fell for that. But that said, he had 2 separate meetings and he had, in essence, a manifesto, buddy. He had something like a 17-page outline of what he would do if he ran a program.
I heard it was upwards of 400 that he presented to North Carolina when it came to all of the organizational aspects to the program. So everything that the university would need to approve on the administrative side, on top of all the things that he would do specifically on the football side. Yeah, and it was non-negotiable. It was here's how it's done. Call me if you're interested. That's quite the tactic.
It's smart. You don't have time. You're 72 years old. You don't have time to be BSing about. You've got a very short period of time, a small window to operate, and you want to hit the ground running. So you need to know money's not going to be a problem. And what you do when you lay out that many coaches and that many analysts and you bring in your own personal GM to run the organization like you did with Lombardi, and you do all of those things, and those people aren't working for cheap. And as I said earlier, he's making 4 times what the basketball coach is making. That's got to piss you off if you're a basketball guy. But that said, you want to know how serious are they about getting this right and winning, just as they want to know what kind of plan a 72-year-old man who's never coached in college before. He knew. He came to the table. Here's what I'm doing. There it is on your desk. Read that, buddy. That'll take you all night long. Now you come back and tell me, are you serious after you read that? Here's 17 pages and get you some. I've been thinking about it ever since I got turned down as the next coach of the Atlanta Falcons and I saw the league try to bend me over. I said, oh, no. Nay, I'm Bill effing Belichick. You ain't doing it. I'll take it to college because it's getting more pro-like every day. I'll find somebody that wants a piece of this. And he did. And now North Carolina, I don't know that they're going to be taken seriously. We'll see if it works. Nobody knows. Nobody knows if it's going to work. Might. How long is Bill Belichick going to be there? Not long. I'd say a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance that it does just outright work. But I think no matter what, it's going to inspire some people to follow methods that he's about to implement in Chapel Hill for their own organization. I think the idea of taking a turnkey NFL operation and molding it for college is really, really smart. It's something we've talked about for months, that was the future of the sport because it's getting more professionalized.
So what's happening.
But I'm sure he has some assumptions about the college game that he's going to find are just woefully inaccurate. And he's going to have to revise his strategy after one off season or one full calendar year. He says, whoa, okay. From the outside, I thought it was X, Y, and Z, but there's actually A, B, and C over here. But I do think his method is going to be watched very, very closely by head coaches and athletic directors around the country to see, all right, is the NFL method something we need to do a little bit more of? Not that nobody else in the country has NFL ties on their staff or doesn't have NFL people in their building, but he's trying to do it in such a radical way. It also fits the place he's going. On ESPN, the headline today was takes over underachieving North Carolina. Underachieving, or is that just who they are? I don't know. Are you underachieving if you've been a certain way forever? As North Carolina's football program, it's the perfect place to experiment for it. You don't want to do that at a place where you don't have to risk anything. For North Carolina, what do you have to lose? You've been nothing forever.
To your point, by the way, just for people who would, maybe think about that for a second. North Carolina, I'll do this for you. 6-6 this year, 8-5 last year, 9-5 the year before, banner year in 2022. 6-7 the year before that, 8-4 the year before that, 7-6 the year before that. They were a robust 2-9 in 2018, 3-9 in 2017, 8-5 in 2016, and then you have the outlier that is 11-3 in 2015. Lost the Russell Athletic Bowl, however, to Baylor, 49-38. Prior to that, 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 4-8, 5-6, 6-6, 2-10, 3-9. I've gone back 20 years, gang. 8-5, 6-5, 7-5. Holy moly! You got to go back to that previous Mac Brown era, and I can remember it well when they thought they were about to do some really good things in 1997, facing off against the mighty Noles. And alas, Florida State told them to suck it, 20-3 in a non-competitive football game. And I think it was at that moment Mac Brown realized we're not beating Florida State. I'm not beating Florida. Who am I kidding? Why did I think I was going to beat Florida State? You're not beating Florida State.
Right. They underachieved the way that the Patriots underachieved before Belichick installed his vision and he discovered who Tom Brady was. There's a blip, and then there's a Super Bowl appearance where they got destroyed by the Bears. And that's kind of it. This isn't a long, storied program that needs its Saban savior to bring them back to glory days. This is just a nothing program. So if it does work, and he's got a legacy all his own. I'm sure they probably achieved things in the Tobacco Road original days of the conference. I'm sure they did. But if you're getting to the point where I was born and there's nothing, if Belichick achieves something significant here, then it's not about underachieving. It's about taking it to a place it hasn't been.
I would like to set the standard by which we're going to judge this. So why don't you tell me, by the way, just for giggles, because you brought it up, and I love doing this because this is the time where our age difference comes into play. All right, you were born in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
In 1986, they went 7-4. From 1986 to, I'll catch us up, all the way to 1997. 7-4, 5-6, 1-10, 1-10, 6-4, 7-4, 9-3, 10-3. Here we go on a bit of a roll. 8-4, 7-5. Then you get the big 10-2 season with that loss to Florida State. Now, the earliest days. Now, they were in the Southern Conference, Tom, way back in the 50s.
Oh, really? Southern?
They were an independent during World War I. The great Myron Fuller coaching that team.
They carry themselves like they're independents to this day.
Then they went to the Southern Conference under Bill Feltzer and Chuck Collins in the 1920s. Didn't do a lot there, buddy. Bunch of 3-1-1 seasons. You get into the SoCon era ends, and they joined the ACC in 1953. And then we can get into their overall records from 1953, which is because it's fun and, And the answer is they didn't, Tom. You were right to say no, they didn't do anything. I know you thought maybe way back when in the old days of Tobacco Road they did. Nope, they didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah, my point was you could tell me that. I wouldn't look it up, but I'd grant you it in an argument. It still wouldn't mean that the program's underachieving. It means the program's ass. They're just this side of Wake Forest. They get more people to show up sometimes to their games. They carry themselves like they're the Texas of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And maybe from a media standpoint, that's quasi-true, but it's not even close to 1-to-1 ratio. It's a good place for Bill to take a risk, though. I think that's the proper level of program because you're close enough to access to a playoff. You're close enough to access to prime television. If ESPN bothers to put you on a main channel, you can still get those opportunities. You're also on this. It's a contract with the same network that employs Nick Saban. So you're going to get a ton of media just because of the relationship between those guys. They're going to want to exploit that for all it's worth. And it's a calculated move and a good one on Bill's part. To answer your question about defining success, he signed a 5-year deal. If he's still the head coach at the end of those 5 years, I call that a success.
Well, they got to make it to the ACC championship game a couple of times in those 5 years for what they're paying him and how much money they're going to pay out for that support staff and how much money they're going to have to pay out in the portal to make that program a sustainable success. They got to pay it off by getting to the ACC championship game a couple of times. I would dare say you got to win it or at least get there. I'll put it at get there a couple of times.
Probably so. My point is, if it doesn't succeed in the first 3 years, I don't think he's sticking around. He'll take an NFL job or he'll do something else. Like if it's not working, he's not going to play that thing out to the end of the contract. But if he's still the coach and we're turning the page to 2030, the year 2030, and he's pushing 77, 78 years old, then by definition, it's a success because he wouldn't stick around that long if it wasn't.
Yeah, you know what's interesting with him? He has an encyclopedic knowledge of the origins of everything in football, and he is a joy to listen to talk about that stuff. If you get past the gruff exterior and sort of this, monotone way in which he talks to the media, he is just a fountain of knowledge that we seldom see. It is fun to listen. I just don't know that pays off in this situation. Like, the reason I say that he's going to have to spend so much money in the portal is, does it resonate at all with a 17-year-old? I mean, if you're recruiting and tried to build like in a traditional manner, not that you have to anymore, or that you should even try that way anymore, like how well will he recruit when he goes to a high school phenom's door and knocks on the door? Does he resonate like he does with you and me? Right. We get that Bill Belichick is one of the 5 greatest coaches of all time. You could argue the greatest.
Yeah,
but I don't know that he does with a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old.
Oh, I think it's very similar to the Deion Sanders effect. You're going to have dads of kids lining up to take kids on campuses. Well, Deion doesn't do it home, but Bill will. Like, you're going to have dads who say, this man's coming to eat at our table. He's going to have dinner in our home. Like, are you kidding me? I get to sit down with Bill Belichick. So there's going to be that. I think what matters is, like anything else, what kind of staff does he build? Besides his kids and Matt Patricia and all the retreads, does he bring in some people that are relevant to children?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think any of us do. That's what makes all of this so intriguing. I'm very, very – I would tell you that if I were I guess if I thought that I had a kid that was a quarterback, and I wanted him to learn what it was – the pitch for Belichick and for his staff to recruits of any kind is going to be hey, I know what it is to win in the NFL. I thought, not just win, but win in a way that very few have ever won. And I'll get you there. I can get you prepared for the NFL better than any place else that you could go. I know more about that league than any coach that you could possibly talk to in college. And why wouldn't you since you all want to go to the NFL, who better to get you there than me, a guy that coached in that league for 40 years?
Yeah, agreed. I think the problem you're going to have is it's kind of reverse, but it's the same deal. Remember the stories about Saban going to the Dolphins and how it didn't work because he thought he could bring a militaristic style to the professional game, and players were laughing at him and calling
They
him
made more money
names.
than him. Yeah, they laughed at him. Yeah.
They're like making fun of him as they're not putting on their pads because it's part of their veteran contract that they don't have to participate in quote unquote his stupid drills.
Right.
Well, Bill's going to run into a little bit of that in this era of college football. What kind of kids are you recruiting? What kind of kids want to be coached the way that he coached Tom Brady, where he would call him out in a meeting room of all of his teammates and say the most vile things that he said to anybody, he said to the quarterback to set an example. What kind of kids that are in the top 50 of next year's recruiting rankings want to be a part of that program? You can sell the success idea, but that's all fun and games till kids get on campus and they have unlimited transfers. Like, that is the landmine that you're trying to navigate here.
But if we get the version, I'll just say this, if we get the version of Bill Belichick that's on TV right now, that's awesome. That dude's awesome. I love, first of all, he's incredibly insightful. And he's actually sneaky funny. I doubt they're going to see the sneaky funny side of Bill Belichick, but that would be ideal. Like, if you got the sneaky funny Bill, you'd be like, all right, I can put up with anything. Because Bill's funny, and he knows what the hell he's talking about, and I'll listen to whatever drivel he has to say about me when he's mad, because I want to get all this other stuff from him. But it'll be interesting to see. I can't believe it happened, and that's where we're at in college football. It's just one more thing in college football that you're like, what? What in the hell?
There's a small tie-in to it to what you and Ira were talking about in hour one, which is Bill O'Brien's a disciple of Bill Belichick. And Bill O'Brien has had run-ins with players everywhere he's been as a head coach. Everywhere he's been as a head coach. His reputation in the business is not great when it comes to
not working with,
not working with others well, not responding to if he is going to rule with an iron fist and you don't fall in line, he doesn't have conversations with you. And you could say that, well, that's because younger generations are softer. I'm telling you that happened with the Texans. Like, it's not just what might have happened with Castellanos at Boston College. And Castellanos might very well have been in the wrong to quit, because in any circumstance, that's largely unforgivable unless there are extreme extenuating facts that we don't know about.
Correct.
But O'Brien's reputation is garbage. And I mean, he's a disciple of Belichick. So how's that going to play? Bill's going to have to be smart enough to read the room and maybe play grandpa rather than play drill sergeant if it's going to work.
I would think he's thought a lot about it. You know, if he had 17 pages worth of reasons that he thinks it can work, he has spent some time thinking about it, and I think you're probably right. I think he knows he has to opt in that direction. None of us know if it's going to work. It is good for college football. It is extremely intriguing. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Due to night temperatures potentially dropping below 35 degrees, overnight cold weather shelters will be available in Tallahassee again tonight. Anyone in need of cold weather sheltering is encouraged to go to any of the locations that best represents their household composition. Single adults are asked to go to the Kearney Center. Families that consist of at least one child and one adult can go to Hope Community, and youth that are under the age of 18 can seek shelter at 2407 Roberts Avenue. Those in need of shelter must show up at their specified location anytime between 4 to 8 p.m. for intake. Tallahassee police are investigating what they call an accidental death after a man fell out of a tree while working and died. The incident happened around 12:56 p.m. along Tipperary Drive Tuesday afternoon. He was on the property for a job. Investigators say they do not believe foul play is suspected. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
Now, here's your Paul's Termite and Pest Control Tallahassee weather report.
A cooler into the week followed by a warm-up. Highs going from near 60 degrees to the 70s this weekend with plenty of sunshine. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 36. Friday, sunny and warmer with a high of 67. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 70. Sunshine continues on Sunday with a high of 73. From Real Talk 93.3, this is Danielle Kelly.
For the elimination of termites, pests, and for greener lawn too, call Paul's. They'll get them all.
Did you know that the survivability of a metal roof far exceeds that of a traditional shingle roof? At Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee, we have new state-of-the-art roll formers that produce the highest quality Versa panel, PBR panel, and standing seam options. And we will guarantee to match or beat any local competitor's pricing. We're a family-owned business, ready to offer you the best sales and installation service in the area. And don't forget about our veterans and first responders discounts. Call Metal Roofing Sales today, 850-536-9123, or visit us online at metalroofing.com. RoofingSales.net.
The Kraft brothers visited Nissan's regional office to negotiate a Christmas deal that kind of pays back North Florida and South Georgia for another great year. So earlier this month, Chris Kraft called and said, "You guys are not going to believe what we got for our customers. It's so good. Let's get someone in the radio station to get the word out before we get back." So here I am, and you're not going to believe this. Buy any car on our lot in December, and you get your choice of a 5-day cruise or airfare and 2-night stay in Las Vegas. And on top of that, you will automatically be entered in our weekly Saturday drawing for a free 65-inch TV. They wanted to remind you that your car is 1 year older next month, so listen to what they got. You can get 0% for 60 months on 2024 Rogues and Titan pickups, and 72 months on Aria, the all-electric SUV. Or you can get $4,000 off all Rogues, or $7,500 cash back on Aria. So why not use our 0% loans to start the new year in a new car and get the details on your next vacation? Only here at Kraft Nissan Tallahassee.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I'll have the wagers tomorrow. I don't know. I didn't have a chance today given we had weird circumstances, but I'll have it for tomorrow. Did you see where the former billionaire, well, he is a billionaire, former Bucks owner, Mark Lassery, was talking about people like him investing in college football and investing, Tom, into, say, ownership of programs in college football? Have you seen this? No. So certain programs like Michigan, Florida State, and others would estimate their annual income at $50 to $100 million above what they're spending in some cases. And he gets into how, like, you could own 51% and you would be able to fund NIL and upgrade the football facility. And currently, with that money that comes in from football programs goes to fund other programs, goes to upgrade facilities and fund other programs and do all those things.
Yeah. Because they got nowhere else to put the money.
Yeah. But they'll need more money now for NIL, and they'll need a lot of things. But it doesn't act as a deduction currently. If you give money to a university and say, "I want here's $50 million, and I want it to go to Michigan," fine, and you can deduct that. But if you say, "I want it to go to NIL," it's not a deduction. So he was saying that you're going to see a number of schools selling their teams, their programs to people, and there's a return on that investment. Like, they're bidding on a couple. It's already started that, like, certain billionaires have bid on a couple of teams. They want to buy 51% of the team, and in return, they'll estimate that you're going to make 500, 700 million over time with that investment. And it's a way to skirt the federal laws is what it is you don't own all of it. You don't have to fund scholarships. You can fund NIL if you're part owner. It's weird. It's not something I understand. I'll tell you that, but I'm going to have to read more about it. I was reading it this morning.
It's fascinating. I never really considered that, but that might be a pathway out of, again, just finding homes for dollars so that you can report an even inflow and outflow as an athletic department. I mean, that's why they were building arcades and fountains, and water slides, and all kinds of stuff, and paying coaches $6 million, then $8 million, then $10 million, then $12 million, because there was no place else to put the television money. The television money was absurd, and so you could put it in all these places. But if you do make it so that the sport itself is professional and retain all logos and traditions at that point, I'm sure that the ownership charter agreement would have to be something along the lines of you can never move. It must be retained within the university. It must be tied to the university in perpetuity. That language would have to be there to protect, lest an owner asks taxpayers for a new stadium or threaten to move if they don't. But I could see where that would have legs. It would also expedite the process here where we don't have any regulation on the talent. And there needs to be regulation on the talent itself in terms of contracts and salary structures.
Well, 100% this has to happen. And every day that goes by, we're seeing this more and more that, listen, the programs, the schools, the coaches, the universities, the athletic directors, all of it have zero leverage in the current game. They have no leverage over players whatsoever. And again, I go back to something I was talking about earlier. Even for those of us that were pro player and wanted to see guys get paid and understood that players were getting screwed, because if you go back in yesteryear and saw the way that schools gray-shirted people and screwed kids over left and right, all that sort of thing, right? We didn't want it at the expense of unlimited free agency and unlimited transfer portal and unlimited. No, that doesn't work at all. Right now, the players have all the leverage. There's no balance to this arrangement whatsoever. I'm a starting quarterback. I made $100,000 last year. I just decide I want more. I go back in year 2 and say, give me $500,000. You've got no choice. If you say no, I'm leaving. I'm going to such and such school. I guarantee you they're going to give me the $500,000. They're desperate. I'm going to go get paid. And then you're bit over a barrel because he can do it again and again and again.
Yeah, and frankly, if I was the agent for any number of 4- and 5-star players, I would recommend that they do that. Look, if you like it, then they're going to match the offer and we're going to be fine here. But you can get 3 different contracts before your time is up. Your eligibility has expired, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be making any number of dollars at the next level. So let's maximize your income right now. I think that's the right way to manage it if you're on player representation, but it's out of whack. There's a big part of me that loves that coaches now understand that Brian Kelly, who complains about NIL, has to understand what it feels like or what it felt like for players in the Cincinnati locker room when he left them in the dead of night. Like, I love that justice of this particular situation.
Sure.
But, at some point we do need to regulate the thing. And so it's been nice, but the players aren't not going to get paid moving forward. Let's just structure it a little bit to make sure that a coach doesn't have to sweat 10 hours out of any given week of work that he could be spending on film or something else that, oh my God, Timmy's going to leave my program if I don't go spend 6 hours with him right now because he feels lonely and he feels like we're not paying enough attention to him.
You just have to make them employees.
Yeah, I mean, you need to run into the arms of unionization. You have to run into arms of unionization. They don't want to, but they should.
Yeah, they're going to have to make them employees. That's what they're going to have to do. And every day that goes by, it looks like we're another step closer. I just keep waiting to see who is this regulatory body that's going to come in here and bring sense to college football, because we're not seeing it anywhere.
Well, I hear that about specific agencies are going to be ruling on NIL contracts for market value and whether or not they pass muster. Like, really? I mean, is that going to work? I get that. That's
our athletic director said that. Yeah, our athletic director said something like that. I've heard other people say something like that. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen to me either.
You try and have a kid in Tuscaloosa get a deal for $1 million at a car dealership, get told that he's being paid too much, and defending that in a court of law. Like, if you don't do that with some sort of provision attached to the congressional settlement itself that just says, and it is so, if it can be challenged in a court of law, it's going to be challenged in a court of law. And guess what? While it's being challenged in a court of law, people are just going to fly right past whatever agency that we're talking about.
Yeah. I do think, as much as I love this sport and I continue to watch it and engage in it every weekend and want to see my team do well, just like everybody else wants to see their team do well, I do think the sport's been hurt some, certainly over the last 24 months. I think there are aspects of it that we were for and we wrapped our arms around and thought that was good. I'm for players getting paid. I'm for elite players being paid at a very high level. I'm for other players making whatever they can off their name, image, likeness. I'm for at least one free transfer without the penalty of having to sit. Like, I'm pretty forward thinking on players and what they can have and not have. So I'm not one of these, old school staunch, oh no, screw the player. No, I'm pro player. But I'm not for unlimited transfers, and I'm certainly for some sort of unilateral agreement where everybody is playing under the same guidelines and rules that is agreed upon. And we don't have that now. And I certainly don't think you should be able to transfer willy-nilly whenever the hell you want.
Yeah, there was something that in the booster call Alford said about the new era of how it's going to get done. And this one perked my ears up because I hope this is true, as I think the other stuff will get challenged and it's just not as simple as he wants to make it. But if you can sign grant and aid documents or NIL documents with the university, and he was saying that these contracts would be structured at 1, 2, or 3 years. If you can do that, that would be extremely helpful. And it would also be extremely helpful if it's normalized that the people know how long these contracts are for. So you can know as a fan, just like you do for your professional team, if somebody's in a walk year. That's kind of nice versus, well, we've got them locked up for 2 or 3 seasons. It's hard as a fan this week when Luke Kromenhoek enters the portal. A lot of Florida State fans are pissed off because he was one of the top recruiting wins for Mike Norvell in his tenure at Florida State. And so you invest a lot of questions in the tribal council, a lot of questions here on the live chat. When Brock isn't playing well, what about Luke? What about Luke? He's going to be the guy. He was a borderline 5-star player. When that guy leaves, you're like, well, is nothing sacred? I think people would like to know if a kid signed a 3-year deal so they can at least put their mind at ease that they're not watching him play for their rival in a year from now.
I do think one of the things that's going to happen and that we're already seeing signs are going to happen is that these deals, the current deals with collectives involving NIL are going to be deals that have a very specific set of parameters. So if you sign a deal and you're no longer here, you enter the transfer portal, you're not getting paid. I mean, you're not getting any, that money's not guaranteed. There's going to be a provision that says if you at any point leave this, and you can have multi-year deals, I agree with you, and you can set it up to say that in order to fulfill this and get your money, you have to be here on this date. You have to do these things. This is what's going to be the standard for how you get paid. And if you don't do those things and you do choose to leave, then, the deal is over. It is absolutely circumvented at that point. You're not getting anything. And people are going to bitch about that. I'm sure people are going to complain. Well, we signed a deal and it was for this amount of time and you still have to pay me. No, I'm not going to do that. I think the collectives are already in the process of doing that, of already saying, no, we're not doing that.
Well, this is an equal but opposite reaction to what the market was. Like, I see it. I hear you, Troy Noel. NIL is ruining college sports because it's gotten a lot more difficult to enjoy college sports since NIL has become a thing. But all NIL is a reflection of is how ridiculous this system was before NIL was a thing. It's just we never talked about it because all of the leverage was on the university side. But how can you be making as much money as these institutions are, and the players get stipends plus they can have as much honey fried chicken from Florida State as they want? And that's crazy. And even that they had to fight for in the last 10 years. Like, how is that even a thing?
Well, and we began to raise these concerns. Everybody did, I think, when it was, when a coach got paid $12 million and then also had separate deals from whatever the Nike endorsement or whatever, and then the coach's show and all the other stuff. You're like, okay, really? So Johnny over here is winning the Heisman, including 12 games and throwing for 4,000 yards. Thanks for the books.
Right.
Thanks for the math class.
Yeah, who was more valuable to Texas A&M, Manziel or Kevin Sumlin? Who's the reason for the ratings? Who's the reason for the gate? Is it the coach or is it the quarterback in that situation?
Right. My brother, thanks for weighing in late. Helping out down the stretch. Feel better?
Love. Peace and love.
Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. We'll see if he's well enough to join the show on a Libations. How did this week go by so fast? Good Lord. It does appear that Omar Graham is no longer in the portal. That would suggest to me that there was a conversation with the new defensive coordinator and how he would be utilized, and perhaps that resonated. So good for him. Omar showed some signs of getting better. I don't know. I was never a huge Omar Graham guy. I wasn't anti-Omar. I was just kind of like, we'll see. But it looks like he's pulled his name out of the portal. Thanks to all of you guys. And once again, if you want to sign up for the bowling tournament, you need to go to radio@warchant.com and send an email. radio@warchant.com. Couple spots still open. Until tomorrow, peace.